a lot of the young kids today come and ask me life advice. I usually say I think it's a good idea to be sticking around in India. A lot of people have asked me to go get a real job. I'd rather be 25% of something versus being 0% on that.
Yeah. If you stay in a safe cocoon and you keep doing what everyone else is doing, then chances you ending up in that right place, right time also that much lower.
Zerodha is really the biggest trade of my life. And I think, a lot of people think of trading more as trading stocks.
Right.
But it's more trading your time.
I think what kept me going is wasn't thinking really that much about success or failure as opposed to, just enjoying.
There is a framework to improve the odds of getting lucky. When you're pushed to the edge, you don't know how you'll react. Medical progress means that we'll all live for much longer.
Yeah.
Right? As in, now, what is the quality of life you want to have if you're leading much longer?
Hello, I am Mukesh Bansal. Welcome to SparX. Our guest today is Nithin Kamath. Nithin is co-founder of Zerodha. Zerodha is India's largest and most profitable online brokerage platform. Zerodha has deep fan following among sophisticated traders in the country. Nithin and his brother Nikhil bootstrapped Zerodha from scratch without ever raising any venture capital. Zerodha is a role model for an alternate way of building companies where entrepreneurs can be completely in control of their destiny. Zerodha has helped introduce millions of people to online investing, does great job in educating people through the Zerodha Varsity, and continues to empower and enable a lot of people to consider equity and mutual fund participation in their portfolio. Nithin also leverages Zerodha platform for larger impact through Rainmatter Foundation, which has signed up to do great work in the area of climate and health and continues to work on numerous projects through his foundation. Nithin has also set up Rainmatter Capital along with Nikhil, where they look at capital investment over a very long-term period to be able to invest behind problems that require long-term nurturing and incubation. Nithin is an avid fitness enthusiast. He tracks around the world. He is very vocal in talking about fitness and also promoting active lifestyle, fitness, health within Zerodha itself. In this episode, we'll discuss Nithin's early journey as a call center employee, where he learned a lot of fundamental skills about being a salesperson, which has continued to come in handy throughout his entrepreneurial career. We also covered a lot of basics of investment journey. India is a country which is just now starting to learn how to balance its portfolio. A lot of people are learning how to get into investing for the first time. We talk about various types of investment methods, risk involved, how can one educate oneself to think about what is the right kind of investment one can consider. We also covered broadly the markets in India, how Indian economy is continuing to do well, Nithin's outlook about the long-term prospect in the country, and how can one factor in this dynamics to make informed choices about the portfolio and investment strategies. We also look into the world of day trading. We have a lot of people in the country who are very active day traders, which involves a lot of risk, but it's also a profession for many people. So we talk about pros and cons and how should one think about day trading. Nithin also covers his leadership approach, his very people-centric approach, and building a very unique culture centered around people which has set Zerodha for this long-term success. Nithin also covers the very lean culture Zerodha, where the engineering team is only 35 people while running such a sophisticated platform, and many other best practices which has made Zerodha what it is. Nithin is a highly inspiring next-generation entrepreneur. There's a lot to learn from him. He's a role model for a lot of aspiring young entrepreneurs, and he has tremendous lessons to impart that anyone can learn from. I really enjoyed this conversation with Nithin. I'm sure you will enjoy it as well. So, Nithin, welcome. Really excited about this conversation. I think you have had an incredible journey. I think, I've been part of this digital ecosystem in the country where a lot of companies have raised billions of dollars, burned billions of dollars, yet to turn in profit, while you have built a company completely bootstrapped. I think as far as I know, never raised a single dollar from outside, and among the most, if not the most profitable digital company in the country. That's incredible. I'm really looking forward to understanding your journey, how you went about shaping the Zerodha Foundation, how you built it over the years and so on. But before all that, let's go a little earlier. From what I understand, you started your career in a call center. Right? How did you end up in a call center, and how old were you when you worked in call center?
No, actually, even before the call center, I used to do multi-level marketing.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Door to door or phone?
no, this was when Amway had started.
Right.
So this was go meet people and try to pitch them why they should become members of Amway.
Which year was it?
This was late 90s. So yeah, I started trading the markets when I was in my first year of engineering.
Right.
This was 97, 98.
Mhm.
And then, to trade, you need money.
Right.
So I was trying to find like different ways to make a buck. So I've done quite a random things. I've tried to teach music. It's so funny that I learned playing guitar for 3-4 months, and I was trying to teach someone guitar and try to make money. Then I worked in a lot of these gig stuff. There used to be this weekender back in the day. So I worked there for a while, but this is all trying to put up a trading capital.
Right.
2001 is when when this whole futures and options got introduced to Indian markets. And as a younger person, I was like a much aggressive version, of me in terms of risk. And by then I had borrowed money to trade the markets and etc. And so I blew up in 2001, and I dropped out of engineering by then. And 2001 I joined a call center and I worked there.
Which year of college were you when you dropped out?
So the thing is, the first year of engineering was all these common subjects, right? Like physics, chemistry, maths. I mean, I actually sat through the college. The third semester when I went to the college, the first subject was signals and systems. And I was like, dude, what's happening? It just went over the top. That's it, I think, after third semester. And I was the last batch of Bangalore University.
Right.
So they had this whole all carry facility. So you could just keep carrying over.
Right.
So I remember 8th semester, I had 50 subjects carried over, And my HOD had called my mom and said, I have some psychological problem and all that. So, but 2001 is around the time I was, I should have ideally completed engineering. But I joined 24/7. I was among the first few hundred people who joined 24/7 customer. But I survived there only for 3-4 months, and it was because it's just too far. I used to stay in Jayanagar. This was in Whitefield. Then there was this company called Dial-M on Airport Road, Old Airport Road. And this was part of the Manipal group.
Yeah.
So I went join there, and I worked there till 2005. And I think most of my life skills I've actually learned in my call center.
So did you grow really fast in the call center career?
Not really.
No?
I mean, I think intellectually, because this whole selling.
Yeah.
If you think about it, right? I think if you're not a programmer who can build your own products, I think the other skill you need in life is to be able to sell well. Right. And if I think of myself today, I think I'm a salesman. In the sense, I'm constantly trying to find ways to sell my own story, Zerodha story, and etc. Right? So 2000, during call center, I think what I really learned was maybe how to sell better. And I also realized, with my MLM, that multi-level marketing that I did for a while, which was more physical.
Yeah.
Call center was more on the phone, right? You could be anonymous and be able to sell. I used to call myself Nathan Hawk, because it was around the time Mission Impossible, was released, and in the call center you're calling the US. It was late night shift, so I could trade during the days, and just to be able to, I found a lot of freedom in selling on the phone. So I was a much better salesman on the phone,
right,
versus in person, because in person you need different kind of skill sets.
Yeah.
So I think it was, improving my English, for example, improving, just to be able to understand saying what helps sell.
Right. Did you have to go through some kind of accent training?
In 24/7customer.com, So for I think in the 3 months I spent, I think 1.5 months was just rolling your R's and and all of that, and even I think generally typing faster, etc. But just to be able to understand what can you say that can help close a sale. I think I learned over those 3-4 years. I don't think I would have been able to learn that if I hadn't done the job. And I think if I look back in my journey, apart from all the experience of the markets itself, I think the second most important thing that I think that's helped me in my life has been this selling 3-4 years on the phone continuously, right? As in that's been I think, and usually whenever young entrepreneurs come to me and like people who want to be entrepreneurs, my advice usually is dude, if you can't build a product, if you're not a software engineer, I think you need to go build some sales skills.
Right. Absolutely. Right. No, I can imagine, and probably every call that you're engaged in just totally fresh context, and you have to build a rapport very quickly in first minute or two, and probably also made you a good listener, because you can't be a good salesperson without being able to listen really well.
No, I mean, see, as I said, the thing about life is, in hindsight, this rear view mirror, it's easy to sit and analyze like, oh, I might have learned all of this. Back then, I think I did a lot of stupidity, I mean, like maybe dropping out of college was stupidity, maybe picking up the call center job was stupidity, maybe borrowing money to trade the markets is stupidity. So I give a lot of, like looking back, I give a lot of credit to luck in life, right? Because this whole right place, right time is just so super important, right? As in, so I think, but you're right, as in selling, listening, also because selling to Americans, that was like, you had to kind of, and within America, such a large country that, like usually what happens in a call center, right? When you start dialing out in the night, you start on the East Coast and you go towards the West Coast, right? Because there's a shift also. Yeah, I mean, like during the day, you need to keep changing your accent. You need to keep, like saying different things to sell. So I think it was, I found it very interesting. I found it very exciting. The good thing about Dial-M, the call center was, I was not stuck to one project, right? So I think I started selling long distance. Then I was selling DVDs. Then I was selling, there are times when I was sold toothpaste subscriptions, right? So it was
subscription, okay.
So it was not selling one product as well. It was like selling different types of products to different type of people. So I found it like even today, some of my closest friends are friends I made in my call center days, and
incredible.
Yeah, I met my wife there, so she.
Oh, okay. Did really well.
Yeah, so she had come from Belgaum to become a cabin crew, and she was trying to find a stopgap job, but then she can find, so she joined Dial-M, and we were there together for like a couple of years, and so I think. That 3.5, 4 years has, defined my life of sorts.
No, I think as you're talking about, right, and I mean, there's one lens of looking at these things as, stupidity, doing things you're not supposed to do. Right. But other lens to look at it, just exploration. Right. You are just, giving yourself chance to expose yourself to so many different things, which, dots may or may not connect in different ways in future. I think in my 20s also, in late 90s, I was into big time day trading. Eventually blew up, I managed to blow up even before, 2000 crash. This is in Bay Area. The same year where I quit my job and went to Silicon Valley trying to start a company without H-1B visa. So, but those things, those experiences definitely affect you in some ways, this whole thing about being right place, right time. But if you stay in a safe cocoon and you keep doing what everyone else is doing, then chances of you ending up in that right place, right time also that much lower.
Absolutely. I mean, I think this is the other thing I keep telling, even with my son right now, he's 8 years old, and my only objective in life is to let him experience as many things as possible. Right. And not influence him in his choices. Like, he plays a little bit of drums. So, usually I keep, I try to get him to play Floyd because I play a little bit of guitar, but he wants to play, I don't know, like Imagine Dragons, but with him also I think the only, like, I think my objective as a parent is to be able to let him experience different things, because you grow intellectually by trying to do different things. Even if I look at my friends from school and college who are like top of the class, and sometimes I question, how did I turn out all right? Because I was last in the class from my third standard. Like, in a sense, every year my parents have been called to school and said, your son, it's really horrible. You need to do something about him. Right. So then I usually think about it, and like I say, what did I do differently? I think I remain this curious. I've not just about reading books or trying different things. Like different skills that I try to pick up. I don't know, different kind of musical instruments to learn. For a while I was into magic. I was trying to learn and try to become a magician. I've done a lot of sales. I've done multi-level marketing for a bunch of things. I've traded. I think the thing about trading, is I think, even with your experience, I'm guessing it's about how you react to fear, greed. Right. Like that, experience in itself is super important in life, right? Just to be able to know, especially as a businessman,
right,
to know that how you react, as a person, if to agree to making losses, right?
Yeah, exactly. How to deal with failure, right? When you have so I had to tell you a little bit about my portfolio. I probably started about $20,000.
Right.
At some point, my portfolio at that time became about $200,000 and went back to below 20,000.
Right.
And was doing my taxes at the end of the year.
Right.
My total sales was about $60 million on that portfolio.
Right.
So you imagine the intensity of day trading.
Right.
But from that, what I learned was this is not for me. So I just absolutely stopped, from day trading to very long-term investment.
No, but how did you? I mean, that's very interesting. As in, like, how did you decide? As in, is it because usually the thing about trading, right?
Yeah.
Is that people don't stop.
Right.
Right. And this is, is not, as a stockbroker, my incentive should be to tell everyone to keep trading, but it's not. I mean, actually, everyone should attempt to trade the market because I think it teaches a very important life skill. But I think the most important thing about trading is to know when to stop.
Right.
Like, what was your decision to stop? Was because you couldn't handle the volatility, or is it?
I think both. There's definitely a stress, every time, man, I was 22, 23 at the time, just ridiculous. I'll put entire money portfolio in one stock and wait for, it to move by $1 or $2 so we make a quick buck. But sometime, I was shorting a lot of things because in 99, I think I kind of took a position this is over it. Even that time, I could feel it. This is ridiculous. I remember, shorting Amazon at $150. It went up to $200. And you could see like you can get, and I was doing all the margin. So you can see like easily had a 50,000. I think the fear of, ending in that situation, also a lot of frustration because there are good days you feel high, the bad days. And somewhere I think I was trying to also build a company at that time. I think I, made the choice that I'm going to just focus on building that. And this is not my cup of tea. I've got enough evidence of 1 year. So kind of in some ways, addiction. Right? In that case, I was able to stop, kind of cold turkey. But mostly driven by the fear of, what will happen. If like, as I'm, going down, what if I end up in a lot of debt, etc., and then having to deal with that for many years?
Yeah, I mean, I think full-time trading is a full-time profession in the sense. It's hard to be able to do something else and be also do day trading, etc. I think it's you might not do well in everything, like whatever you're attempting at the same time. Yeah. Also, I think the thing about day trading in itself, I mean, what you just referred to, right? This leverage.
Yeah.
And going against the trend.
Right.
These are really the biggest reasons people lose money in the market. Right. The last 25 years of being in this.
Yeah.
Like if I blew up in 2001, it was essentially that.
Right.
You took leverage. Which is borrowed money and etc. And then you wanted to go against the trend.
Right.
Because people, it inherently, right? People like to go against the trend.
Right.
When trading stops, right? As in, something's going up, you think, oh, it'll not go up anymore.
Right.
If something's going down, you're like, oh, it's fallen too much, right? You want to do the opposite. And as Zerodha, we've now gotten to interact with so many traders, and I think these two are really by far the biggest reasons you lose money in the markets. And
that's very interesting. I would have thought that a lot of people are momentum traders, right? As they try to go with the trend. Can't really use contrarian here because you're looking at a very, very short-term time frame, but still like enough people who bet against that trend.
Yeah. So the thing is, there are two kinds of people, right? One are the investors. Investors again, I think are maybe three types. Investors are people who buy a stock and who don't have an intention to sell. Right? It's like buying a house. Right? Within traders, there are people who get into it like momentum, which is saying that I want to be in it because markets are going up, right? Or I want to sell it because markets are going down. But that is a very small portion of the very active trading community. 80% of the trading volumes in the exchanges, I think 70 to 80% comes from really short-term traders, the day traders, the guys who are trading for 1 week, 10 days away.
Yeah.
They are always, their view on the market is constantly changing. Right, and there what we are seeing is that mostly people go counter trend, and it is like, just to give an example, I think one of the companies that has lost a lot of money for retail in India is the Yes Bank stock. Right, stock was at 400 rupees. Right. It came to 200. Yeah, people bought more. Right. It came to 100. People bought more. Right, people are like, now greed kicks in. Right, it was at 400. Yeah, now it's come to 100. Right. It can go back to 400 very easily. It came to 50 more. I mean, it got to an extent where I actually wrote a blog post saying why it's maybe not a good idea to be able to do this, to be doing this, which is, there's this whole thing called as disposition bias, right, in the market, which is, it gets you to sell things that are making you money and buy more of what is losing money, right? Because you don't want to accept the loss. You want to throw good money at bad money. That's a problem most humans have, right? As in, our ego is at play and all of that.
Especially as if you bought at 200 and now the stock 100, you think you can at least average out your buying price. So, at 150. And what you've done in the past is affecting, as opposed to if you say, will you from you're fresh, 100 rupees, will you invest in,
right?
That's very hard to ask this question.
Yeah. And the thing is, what you need to do in the markets is exactly that, right? Which is hold on to your winners and get out of your losers.
Right.
But people generally do exactly the opposite.
Right.
They get out of the winners very quickly and try to, average down on the losers. And this is probably the third most reason, why people lose money in the market, which is leverage going against the trend and averaging down.
Right.
And I think these are lessons I've also learned after blowing up, in the sense, would I have, on my own figured out this stuff? It's very easy to say it, but when you blow up with borrowed money and you have interest payments,
right?
I mean, life teaches you a lesson, a lesson you can't forget. So I think personally, I've been a lot more conservative in terms of risk,
right?
After doing those 3-4 years of call center, because it was just it was like a life lesson I couldn't forget.
Do you think most investors, who stay in the game long enough, eventually becomes fairly conservative and long-term oriented?
If you survive long enough, that's the only way you can survive.
Yeah.
So there is no, if you're going to be taking it, it's like trading is like getting on a tightrope. The more number of times you get on it, the higher the chance of you falling.
Right.
So it's just, if you give enough time, the ones who have survived are people who think of risk very differently.
So I've done some more question about investing, so I'll come back to it later. Let's go back to your early years, right? So you mentioned, generally you were not doing that in school, you dropped out, you were working in a call center, I'm guessing, your friends, colleagues, etc., must be getting into really good jobs, multinational companies, this, that, right? And somebody, where I'm coming from is, in late 90s, I also kind of started dabbling and joining the startups, and there's startups were not going anywhere. 2 startups I joined, they all failed and so on. And my friends who joined, Google, Amazon, started to do well in their career, getting promotions. I had this feeling on my late 20s, I'm like really feeling left out, that my career is not going well. Was that a consideration at all, or you were so focused on whatever you wanted to do?
No, I was just in love with the markets, right? So it didn't bother me. I think one of the things I got lucky in life is to be able to find something that I love to do and build a career around. Right. And so while, a lot of this was happening, a lot of my friends went to the US.
Yeah.
And I was making like 10,000-12,000 rupees a month as salary and etc. It was, of course, I would be lying if I say it didn't bother me, but it was just, I was so into it that it didn't care. I didn't care as much. I also, I think my parents have been super supportive, right? Because that also matters, right?
Yeah,
like, what is that kind of family background? Both my dad and mom have always, been supportive of all the stupidity I've done, so they're like, you'll figure it out. It's okay, So even though, like my mom's family, I'm a South Indian Brahmin, and it is, I'm probably the first guy doing any business in an extended family.
Yeah.
So it was not a very, it's not like, it was a thing in the family. It was, so I think their support was super important too in all of this. But I've, until I think 2015-16, when Zerodha actually started, kind of doing well.
Right.
A lot of people have asked me to go get a real job, amongst my friends and family and etc. Because a lot of people thought trading isn't like a real job.
Right.
So it's I think if you're, I think there's a very thin line between this whole passion and foolishness, right? It works out, you're called passionate.
Right. Yeah.
If it hadn't worked out, probably people would have called me foolish, right? Yeah. And so it's easy today to kind of look back and say, oh, Nithin, you're very passionate.
Right.
But it's just, I was probably a foolish guy who got lucky, so it's like that. So it's it is. It's been, I think those years were, and I have questioned quite a bit about.
But see, look, there is both sides to it, right? You kind of found early on that you like markets, trading, you had your ups and downs, you crashed, spectacularly in 2001, as you're saying. But despite that, you stayed in that for over a decade, even before you started Zerodha, right? at some point that also starts to compound, right? So there is some merit to, you just keep doing what you enjoy. You have to survive, of course. You can't burn out so much that, just feel your self-esteem goes for a toss and you're not able to financially survive.
Right.
But, being able to give that 10 years to something where you have a somewhat genuine interest, better odds of it working out in some way.
I mean, my framework, I say, I keep talking about this internally as well, is that you have to get lucky in life, right? I mean, there is no other way, right? As in, you can't say that I'll do everything myself and somehow hit it out of the park. Luck is a very important thing, but there is a framework to improve the odds of getting lucky, right?
That's right.
Which is, it's your odds of getting lucky increases if you survive long enough.
Yeah.
And you can survive long enough only if you're doing something that you like love to do. Right? If I was trying to become, say, I don't know, like a software engineer, but I dropped off. I wouldn't have survived long enough to get lucky. Right. Because, and it's not even 10 years, to be very honest. Like I said, Zerodha really started doing well only in 2015. I started trading the market in 98. Right. So it was like, 17, 18 years it took to get lucky. Right. And I look back and I say, how did I survive those 17, 18 years? It is that, which is, I mean, just
fun every day.
Yeah. I mean, like if it didn't feel like, work, it didn't feel, while of course there was a lot of stress in between, but it was still something that I was enjoying. So.
No, absolutely. I have almost like very similar, journey. In 99, I tried to start my first company. Didn't last even 3-4 months. Worked for a bunch of startups. I had no idea how to evaluate startups. Most of them did not do well. One was moderately okay. 2007 started Myntra. Again, nothing happened for first 4 years. After 12 years, I really had nothing to show for it. But I was not regretting, and I was pumped up going to work, trying to make something happen. And luck obviously plays a big factor. In 2011, all these foreign investors started coming to India, mobile internet took off and so on. Finally, after 12 years, right place, right time. But I think what kept me going wasn't thinking really that much about success or failure as opposed to, just enjoying.
Yeah, but a question for you here is, do you think the ecosystem you were in, like just being in the US, for example, this is a question I keep asking.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the, lucky things for me in my journey was that there was no ecosystem around me. Like I never met entrepreneurs until, I think my first entrepreneur exposure was 2013. I went to a conference. I didn't know what CAC, MAO, DAO and all was until then.
Yeah.
Right? No, so I sometimes question myself, like, dude, how did I even survive till, and how did I turn out okay? Now, but in your case, do you think being around, say being, I don't know which part of US you are in.
Silicon Valley. So
just being around that, do you think helped you, keep attempting different things as in?
No, absolutely. There's no question about it. I think ecosystem is a huge enabler in my opinion. I absorb a lot of things, both in the companies I work for, as well as what I would absorb in the general Silicon Valley culture and ethos, and things I've done in my entrepreneurial career are heavily, informed by that. But there is, part of that is, this whole obsession with fundraising. And even now, when I'm looking something new, I'm still thinking about, fundraising and starting meaningful capital, as opposed to, starting first principle. The choices you made, probably, in some ways, lack of exposure to ecosystem allowed you to make different choice, perhaps much harder choice. But then retrospect, worked out in a very different manner. Today you are in absolute control of your destiny, right? You guys own pretty much all of the company. But in general, I think, ecosystem is obviously huge enabler. I mean, there's not many of us can think of everything from scratch.
You're right. Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. As in, when we think about the journey of Zerodha, I think one of the reasons why we've been able to build it differently was it never really had access to get influenced by the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe if we were influenced by the ecosystem early on, maybe the journey would have been like something else. We would have probably taken a different route of building the business.
Right.
So yeah, again, luck, right? As in, so it's just
right. So this is the completing story, right? So after call center, then you went back to trading full time, until the founding of Zerodha?
Yeah. So what happened was, I think around 2005, I was working out in a gym,
right?
And I met this person called Prakash who had come back from the US,
right?
And he had a bunch of money on him, and he asked me, Nithin, what do you do, etc. We get talking, we had a drink, and I was trading with ICICI Direct back then. I showed my account performance. I said, I trade the markets, and I'm doing all right. So he said, why don't you do this for me as well? And so he cut a check of 24 lakh. I mean, the best guy. I mean, like even today I'm indebted to him. And because him cutting the check meant I immediately quit my job.
Right.
And I said, what, I'm going to trade for you and, you give me some portion of the profits if it works. Okay. So in 2005 I quit, and he was my first customer, and slowly that customer base, kind of grew, like word of mouth, etc. Around 2006 is when it became hard to manage multiple people's relationship.
Yeah.
And I decided to become a sub-broker, so a franchisee of a larger broker.
Okay.
And because it gave me a terminal through which I could manage relationship with a bunch of people.
Right.
So I became a franchisee of Reliance Money. Reliance, the Anil Ambani group had started a broking firm back in 2006. So I set up an office, a small little office on Banagata Road, and I started doing that. And that was like another introduction to the business, because until then I was just a trader.
Right.
Now as a franchisee, I started getting to know how a broking firm works.
Right.
As in, like some of my friends from those days were people who were working with Reliance and etc. So I started going to their main offices, getting in on those conversations, and kind of getting a sense of what it takes to be a broker. I also did a lot of, around those time between 2006 to 2008 when we were sub-brokers, actively. I started going around town, setting up stalls for Reliance Money and trying to get brokerage accounts. While becoming a sub-broker was more about managing this relationship, it also soon became, what if I can go build another parallel source of income, which is how sub-broking works is you introduce customers to the broker. Every time they transact, they pay you a certain commission of the. So I've set up stalls in almost every software company, from Cisco to, lunchtime you'll have a stall and you'll have a laptop showing the terminal. And so I think that was another piece of journey that I think that helped significantly, in the Zerodha journey itself, just to know how another broker works.
And during this phase, for when you were Prakash's Money and other people, were you taking risk on their behalf, or they are mostly giving you the strategy and you?
No, it was me advising them essentially.
So you could do pretty much whatever you want to, and they will, as long as you generate meaningful returns. You must have run into 2008 during that phase.
No, I mean 2008. So the thing is, also around 2006, 2007 is also when Nikhil joined me.
Right.
Nikhil is 6-7 years younger to me, and because I had already set such low benchmarks in my house, there was not too much expectation of Nikhil from education.
Also, the benchmark has been reset many times, I think, last 15 years.
Yeah. No, but it was so I dropped off in my first year engineering. Nikhil, I think the second year, but Nikhil dropped off at his 11th standard. So, the benchmark in the family went lower, so. But yeah, so Nikhil joined around 2006-07, and he also started trading at 16-17 because I had anyways started trading, so he was introduced to that early. And around 2007-08 is also when I realized that Nikhil is a better trader than I am, right? Because like trading is about, you need like some inborn skills. Trading is like art, it's like playing music. It's like playing, I mean, I'm trading stocks, right? So the realization was he's a better trader. And then I was like, if he's a better trader, so maybe I should give more time to something else. Right. And I think the first seeds of that got sowed in, around 2007-08. So I was, Nikhil used to trade, I used to try to get customers.
Okay.
And I used to trade actively. And 2008 is really, Nikhil did a phenomenal job of making money that year.
So he was able to figure out and anticipate.
No, he was short on the market.
Short on the market, incredible. Yeah.
So, in the sense...
India equivalent of big short.
No. I mean, it was... we were day traders. So the thing about day trading is that even if you're right, you're out very quickly, right? Because you're there only for a few minutes, whatever.
And like literally day trader, you will exit all positions before day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you sit on cash.
You sit on cash. So it was not like a big shot kind of, care like, I don't know, what, 2,000% or whatever. But it's still, we didn't lose money that year. We made money that year. But I think one of the things I didn't enjoy in that phase of managing people's relationships and money, etc., was being, having to pick up their phone calls.
Right.
Which is like everyone, what's happening to the market? What's happening to my money? And one of the reasons, I think today, like if I think about Zerodha being bootstrapped and us not raising money, probably that has got to do something, which is today I don't have to pick up anyone's phone call.
Right.
Yeah. And I find I allow that freedom that I have, right? Not being obligated to someone,
Right.
Because that period, that like 3-4 year period where I used to manage people's money, I felt obligated, right? As in, if I'd taken money from someone, he'll call me in the middle of the night, I'll pick up the phone call.
Right.
And if he says, "Oh, come here, let's have a party," I mean, I essentially couldn't say no to anyone who had, given me money. So
I've been picking investors' calls for the last 15 years. I don't party with them, fortunately. But yeah, I had to pick the calls.
yeah, so it's so 2008 was all right. 2009, I think one of the things that I also did in that journey between 2000, 2001 to 2008, 9 was I was also very active on the online trading communities. I used to run some really large Yahoo Messenger groups.
Okay.
And I used to be active on, there used to be all these forums called Trader G, India Traders, etc. I used to be very active on this forum in my pseudo form.
Yeah.
Because I found it very, like I said, in the call center, very powerful not being Nithin Kamath on the call and being Nathan Hawk, who can be any personality.
Yeah.
And people are not judging. So on all of these forums, I had, I used to call myself different names, and I used to be very active. And which again, when Zerodha started, I think the first few customers came because of that name.
Right.
That I had some reputation that it built up, and we used that to get to the first 10,000-20,000 customers really came that way.
And that again, you guys were managing their money, or they were using your platform for trading on their own?
No. Until 2008-9, until before Zerodha, there were two sets of customers. One who were trading on their own. We were sub-brokers. We used to get commission every time they trade. Right. And there was like 100, 80 to 100 customers for whom we used to help manage money, etc. Right. And 2009 is when we said, dude, this. I said, I can't be. I don't enjoy this obligation. Why don't we return all the money? And also, the whole idea of Zerodha actually started in 2009.
Right.
And also the enabler of the idea was this NSE, because see, to be a stockbroker, you need a trading platform,
right,
where customers can come place orders. Second, you need what is called as a back office platform, where at the end of every day you process all the trades, generate contract note, maintain ledger, and you need a website for marketing, right? As in, so in 2008, NSE and the National Stock Exchange of India launched a platform called NSE Now, a white label platform of sorts. So a broker becomes a member of NSE. You could use that NSE Now platform and offer trading without any cost. The question, the whole question we asked in 2008-9 was, if you have a trading platform, even though it is bare bones platform, if they can come to you for free, is there a way to go build an online only business and give it to traders at very low cost?
Right.
All these trading communities that I was part of, one of the big problems we all had was the brokerage fees we used to pay back then.
Right.
And brokerage fees for services that you never used.
Right.
Like if a broker has a fancy office in Bombay and fancy relationship managers, and I as a customer don't use any of it, why should I be paying for all of that?
And that was like what, 1 to 2%?
I mean, not 1 to, I mean, it come down to 0.5, 0.7% for, but our focus was not equity investors. Okay. Our focus was day traders like us.
Okay, right. And it adds up very fast.
Yeah, I mean, you can, in a day if you've done 50 trades, even if it's 0.05%, it adds up really quickly. So the original plan of Zerodha was only for active traders, like people who are actively trading the markets. We will give them a platform which is, which places orders quickly, which is what active traders require. And we will try to be as transparent as possible. We will try to reduce the cost as much as possible. And that's how Zerodha started. And the plan was, Nikhil continues trading. I will go attempt at building this like a broking business.
And now trading on your own account, not for other.
Yeah. But then it was, we had like 25-30 lakh rupees with us. And so the plan was Nikhil trades on the 25-30 lakh rupees. And I go attempt building this. And if this fails, I'll also join trading. That was like the backup plan. And we were like, even if it fails, we were like, we are spending 2-3 lakh rupees of brokerage. For our own trading, we are paying 2-3 lakh rupees a month. So we would have saved 2-3 lakh rupees a month on this,
See, in that, story, I'm seeing a lot of, actually, foundational choices you're making, probably more for intuition and the experience, which is probably very relevant for early stage, entrepreneurs. One is, you said you were very clear you're only building for traders at the time. So very focused, in some ways, niche play. You also bet on online was just trying to take off. I was also trying to build an internet business at the time. Hardly anybody on internet, but you guys, that big leap of faith. Third is, you were disrupting something. You wanted to crash that, the brokerage fee by an order of magnitude. So it's like, by definition, differentiated. And you had a backup plan because you already had a skill set and confidence. And so, that was all you need, right? You were, I don't know how conscious all of those
No, it was not.
In retrospect, that's this brilliant, that's probably a big part, why your story went.
No, but also the thing is, we decided to do this in the middle of the worst times for stockbroking.
That's right, yeah, exactly.
2010 was the worst year for stock brokerage as an industry ever. Right? Because after the financial crisis, the 2008 year, there was a lot of volatility, so people made money. 2009, the volatility disappeared. Right? Stockbrokers make money when there is volatility. Right. And 2009-10 were really the worst years for stockbroking as an industry. I mean, now looking back, it seems like it was such a smart decision to pick up. But like back in 2009-10, when I was talking about being a stockbroker, people like, what are you even talking about? Because the stockbrokers themselves were diversifying. Like a lot of stockbrokers of the 2000 to 2010 era, like your IFL, India Bulls, all of them, they were diversifying to real estate and everything else. And, we were here trying to start a broking firm around. I mean, that timing also was just brilliant because until around 2000, I don't think people even thought of us seriously until 2016-17. Right? Because one was stockbroking as an industry wasn't doing that. Right. And two was like, people are like, you can maybe not make money ever. Another thing, fourth choice on us was when we started the business, the net worth requirement to be a stockbroker, right, is different if you're a partnership and it's different if you're a private limited company. It's lower for a partnership. It's around 90 lakh rupees and for a private limited, it's around 1.5 crores. Because we didn't have, 1.5 crores on us, we had I think 1.2, 1.3, with 25 lakhs was Nikhil was trading with. We became a partnership. Right. We were a partnership firm till 2018-19. Wow. So the thing about partnership firm is it allows you to be in stealth. Right. No one can access your financials. Right. So for 6-7 years, people didn't know anything about our financials. Because usually what happens, right, your competitors usually get attracted by profit pools and revenue and growth and all of that, right? So no one really could access any of that of ours. So it allows us to be slowly, I mean, the growth was nothing phenomenal. Until 2016, I think we had 70,000-80,000 customers. But the fact that it kind of allowed us to be stealth also meant, we didn't have as much competition in those years. But I think looking back, we did a lot of smart choices, but it wasn't meant to be smart, So
there must have been some intuition. You can get so many things right, including, timing. And there is now a lot of literature say, best time to start a new venture is when it's a downtime. And today you look at EdTech, not many people will start EdTech venture. It's probably a really good time because the whole industry is going through a transformation. But unfortunately in the larger investment world, the whole herd mindset, just always plays out. 2021, everyone had to be in EdTech, and today no one wants to. But I think every downturn, incredible companies come out, and good to see this pattern also matching that. Right, Zerodha was founded right after one of the biggest financial meltdown, at least in the modern times.
Well, I think, my life is full of contradictions, right? When I, on the one side, I say to active traders, don't go against the trend. Right. On the other side, I myself, went against the trend. In a sense, this whole starting in 2010 was an against the trend trade, right? So it worked out really well. And also, when people, so I haven't taken a single trade from 2010, right? Because, the way I think of is Zerodha is really the biggest trade of my life. Right. Because everything is a trade in life, right? I think, a lot of people think of trading more as trading stocks. Right. But it's more trading your time, right? To do what can give you the maximum return for your time. Right. And I think my skill sets in life is better suited to be a broker. So we all need to be doing, I think, stuff that, your odds of getting lucky also improves if you're doing stuff where you're more skilled. Right. And so I think it's it's been kind of that kind of a journey.
This self-realization, that realizing exactly what you're good at, because I'm pretty sure you are pretty decent in trading as well, but making the choice that, broking is my thing, I'm going to over-index, and last, 13 years we've been doing that, obviously, phenomenally successfully, is just outstanding, right? That's and you're probably, around 30 or so at that time. That's another big part of, I think, just to be a good entrepreneur, to really understand and be able to articulate to yourself what I'm good at, and therefore what are all the other things I'm not good at and will not be good at it.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. I think, like some of these realization, I think I give so much credit to my, the days of very actively trading the markets, the blowing up. It's because some of these realization came from those mistakes, and like when you're sitting down and thinking, dude, why did I do what I did?
Yeah.
I think you tend to get better, making mistakes in life, right? As in, if everything in your life is hunky-dory and everything is right, when you're pushed to the edge, you don't know how you'll react, right? Because I've been pushed to the edge many times in my journey, and especially before Zerodha. Not as much in Zerodha, because I think it's been very not as volatile as the journey until Zerodha. So and so it's kind of helped me. I think when pushed to an edge, I know how I'll react. It's kind of helped me, I think, do the business better. And usually, when entrepreneurs come and ask me, I tell them exactly the same. I think one of the big reasons why Zerodha has worked well was because there was core competence in build before the starting a builder's business. If I started Zerodha in 99, 2000, unlikely that we would be doing this way, right? As in, because I probably wouldn't have learned about myself as an entrepreneur. And I think you need to, whatever they say, right? And sharpen the axe before you go chopping wood. So it's one of those things. I think everyone, because today this whole starting up is so glorified, right? And like people sitting in a coffee shop,
doesn't lead anywhere. It's glorified, but doesn't necessarily translate into outcome.
Yeah. So I think building core competency is probably one of the most important things in any entrepreneur.
No, I want to underline that. I mean, it's like 10 years is probably a random number, but the fact that you guys spent, I think 12, 13 years very actively trading and dealing with the blows and ups and downs and pattern matching and so on. I think whoever wants to start in any area, at least a decade of deep exposure, then you will be able to see angles, that other people can't see, and a lot of things will be familiar to and so on. You can't just pick up a new industry and just because cool and crypto is happening, or we are, metaverse is happening and I'm going to start a company next year, is very unlikely. Or if you get into it and somehow survive for 5-10 years and then have, that wealth of knowledge.
I mean, there are outliers like, Zuckerberg, where people have suddenly, picked up something randomly. I think it's also about timing, right? As in, they were at the right time, right place. They probably were extremely skilled. I know there are some outliers, but unlikely that you can be that outlier. The odds of that, that happening is much, much, much lower than the odds of someone who's experienced trying to build a business. The odds actually improve, I think, exponentially.
Yeah.
Right.
What is the critical part? Even, if you go 2004, I think all the companies of, whatever, Ivy League dropouts would have started. It's probably only one or two Zuckerberg equivalent, right? Only one, right? So those are, very difficult to optimize for that. I'm going to, it's like, again, stock picking, right? You pick the stock which is going to outperform everything for next 20-30 years. So Nithin, during the break, you were talking about studying the history of coffee. Let's take a detour. What have you learned about, as we're enjoying our cup?
Well, I mean, so the thing is, one of the podcasts that I've been enjoying quite a bit is this, called Empire. Around, this is by William Dalrymple and Anita Anand. And so they start with the British Empire, talking about the history. And I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, anyone wants to learn about history, I think this is like a good starting point. So they are now talking about the Ottoman Empire. I mean that section where they're talking about Ottoman Empire, and that's where they talk about coffee and how coffee made its way. Where was it discovered? What is Arabica coffee, and how coffee itself, apparently, I think the Suleiman the Magnificent, the Ottoman Emperor.
Yeah.
He, I can't recall which emperor, which Ottoman emperor, but he banned coffee. And, coffee was treated like, you will, whatever, the devil in you types, it can come through types.
I think our third cover starting to feel that devil, something to it.
No, but it definitely does help you, I think, remain wired.
Right.
So I start my day with a black coffee. It's just because I woke out early in the day.
Yeah.
And it just wires me. Like, I think, I get up quite early and I have one black coffee, and then, I'm kind of set for the day. So I'm trying to think. Am I addicted to it now? So every once in a while, I try to drop off the habit, but it's hard.
Fortunately, so far, I mean, looks like whatever we know about the science of health, really nothing. No one says anything negative against coffee. So especially until they do, I hope 5 years down the line you don't come back with some new insight. But it looks like for now, most people tend to promote, especially as long as the coffee is earlier in the day. First of the day, probably 2 cups or something like that.
Yeah, I can't have coffee in the evenings because I find it really hard to sleep.
Right.
So whatever coffee I'm drinking is pre-noon. So but my wife is very different. She can do an espresso shot and go to sleep. So I think you just some people behave differently to some substances in life. I think it's
every time we meet, we end up talking about health. Right. When did you become interested in health and start kind of exploring it, experimenting with this, and
No, I've played sports through my life.
Okay.
And I've always found it a way, like a de-stressing thing. I used to play a lot of basketball when I was younger. I hurt my knees. I started cycling. And I found swimming very exciting because it was, I think, the lowest impact on your body kind of sport. So then, this whole triathlon as an idea came through. So through my life, I think where I've struggled really hard is with my diet.
Right.
I love my chocolates. I love my alcohols. I love my, like food itself. And just to do everything in moderation has been, challenging.
You sent me the sample of guilt-free chocolate and snacks. Guilt-free alcohol also in the works.
I mean, this is something I ask, everyone who's really hit off in life, right? Every time I meet the person, I'm like, science has progressed so much. We're sending people to Mars. Why is wine making or, why is, making of whiskey the same way it was 300 years before, right? As in, why is that not progress? Isn't there a way, I don't know, to distill alcohol in a way it is good for you? And, just jokes apart, I think science works a certain way. So I don't think you can.
I'm sure a lot of scientists will also love to find a guilt-free way of consuming alcohol. Even a decaf coffee now, it's been there, in fact, for the longest period,
Yeah, I think with chocolate, it's straightforward. And because, I think what happens with, with desserts itself, finding a healthier version is easier because the traditional ones are just loaded in sugar.
Yeah.
So if you could just take away the sugar, you just make it healthier, right? As in, so at least that is a very low-hanging fruit. I think a lot more people should, solve for, especially with things like stevia and monk sugar, which are, alternate to sugar. Which, there is a lot of, like I said, debate about is it good or not for you. But whatever little I have studied on this and all these research reports, etc., I think I'm comfortable having stevia. And I'm comfortable having monk sugar, and and these are 0-calorie alternative to sugar. So I can indulge slightly, and without having to worry so much about calories. So now that we've had this financial outcome, we can attempt to kind of solve for some of these problems as well. So we've invested in a bunch of companies now which are trying to make healthier snacks and desserts. Right, that's a no-brainer. Like every time I'm at the airport, I'm on the flight. I was in Chennai day before, and I got on the flight. I'm like, I was starving because I didn't have dinner, and I'm looking at the menu. I'm like, not a single healthy option, right? As in, it's just ridiculous. It could just be, I don't know, like a health bar on the menu, or it could.
And so, ridiculous example, food is, if you go to any of these hospitals, and if somebody is admitted, you go to a hospital, kitchens, they are the most unhealthy, all fried stuff, packaged stuff, and like, hello, you're in a place, we will come for health, they come with somebody who's very sick.
Absolutely. Now, one of the companies that we invested through InMatter Health is this called Whole Truth Food. They make these bars, right? So, at least, I see it in the airports and I'm like, all right. Like at least one person is solving for the problem. But I think it's ridiculous. As in, like, you go to restaurants, you go to, like, it's just, I think India should be more health conscious. So sorry, coming back to your question. So I've always cared about playing a sport, and I always know that my health determines the outcome of the sport. Right? I said, you can't be unhealthy, and you can't be smoking and say, go play basketball. It doesn't work. You're going to gas out in no time. So I've never smoked in my life. And also I've always realized that to play a sport, you need to be strong. to be strong, you need to be lifting some weights, right? Or pull or push or whatever. So I've constantly done some physical activity to keep myself strong. I think what I really started caring about my personal health was COVID, right? And I think the first 2-3 months of COVID, Nikhil and I, we were stuck in the house, and we binged. I mean, in all ways. I think I added like 7-8 kilos, and I added very quickly, and I could feel the impact that had on my body, and also I think this was around the same time, and Andrew Huberman and all of these guys were getting popular, so we started listening to a lot of this content around health, what it can do to you, what alcohol can do to your body, and how dangerous it is to binge drink, right? I mean, because more dangerous than having small little drink daily is to actually binge drink, right? So all of these things, started caring. I think I really love some of these concepts of what Peter Attia talks about, right? Which is, I think the right way to think about health is to think like, how do you want to live your last 10 years of your life? Right? If life is like a marathon, you want to finish it strong,
right?
And that concept itself,
right,
has just stayed in my head now. In the last 3-4 years, I've just become, I'm like, by the time I'm 65, 70, I don't want to be on the bed. I want to be physically really active, and one day get up and say, if I have to die, I die, right? I mean, in this journey, you can never really control, right? I mean, we could have a medical accident anywhere. Also, I think in my immediate family, my wife got cancer, and kind of, I also realized how her bounce back from her cancer episode was so fast because she was so healthy. All her life choices before that was really what helped her to, get through this. Otherwise, an episode which slows down people, right? She's just been brilliant, and like after she had a mastectomy, and after the surgery, I think in a week she was on a treadmill.
Wow.
Like she had this bag where after surgery, had this blood collected. Not even a week. I think 3 days. She was on a treadmill walking with it, and it's just. And I was like, I don't know if tomorrow I'll have some accident,
right?
And if it happens, if I'm strong, I think I'll be able to bounce back harder. So I started caring significantly about what I eat. Trying to do it in moderation. I can do it 95% of the times. But it keeps slipping up. Like yesterday, yesterday night, I went to a Japanese restaurant and I slipped up, and it's. But I think it's. We're humans, we're imperfect. I think
most people will argue Japanese food is still fairly healthy overall. First of all, I'm really glad your wife bounced back from this episode, and it's like health, just dedication to healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, and it doesn't take too much effort, as in. I think everyone's got half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, and it's just making some small choices. It's just those small little choices, like just to be able to eat at home, for example, majority of the times, just improves the health outcome so significantly, right? And like for me, what I realized is if I get up in the morning and I get a workout done first thing, all my choices during the day are much better, right? Versus working out in the evening, right? Because a lot of if I keep my workouts in the evening, I've seen that I'll postpone because mentally you're fatigued by the end of the day, and it's very easy to say, let me do it tomorrow. So I usually always get up in the morning and do something.
Do you have shared this advice of not working on the evening with Nikhil yet?
I mean, Nikhil is exactly the opposite. He goes at 10 p.m. in the night to the gym. But like I said, I think you need to do what works for you.
Yeah.
Right. And but Nikhil has done, I think, one very smart choice, which is intermittent fast.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So he's avoiding eating like 1 or 2 meals. I can't do that. And if I'm not eating every 4 or 5 hours,
let's say not yet. Given your commitment and interest in health, probably a matter of time before you give it a shot.
No. I mean, I've given it a shot, but I haven't enjoyed it. I am, I've realized that, when I'm eating, I end up binging, I overcompensate. And also I think it's about, like, if you're a person like that, you don't want insulin spikes in your body, right? I mean, you want it, so I'd rather, keep my insulin constant by eating more frequently versus just have that one big meal where my insulin spikes significantly, right?
And I think there's a lot of science in that favor as well, as long as, you're, basically what the people call flattening the sugar curve, right? As long as you maintain, averages below 110 or something, throughout 24 hours, then it doesn't matter
Correct,
how frequently you are eating.
Yeah, and eventually, right, like everything in life, I don't think any copy paste.
That's exactly. Yeah.
Like I think we need to find where we are most optimal. And that itself is self-discovery, right? As in a life.
That, makes health both so fascinating as also complicated, because it is true. All of our bodies are so unique and different life situations, different places where we grew up in, different habits that we acquired a period of time. So it truly is one of those things which has to be very personalized, which makes it very difficult to create a mass product.
And then the problem is, for everything there is a counter argument. I mean, like if I said I get up in the morning, have coffee, if I actually go on the rabbit hole, someone will say, dude, it's not right for you.
Yeah.
If I say stevia among sugar, I'm sure there's a big audience which will say it's not right for you. But if I can have a piece of chocolate with stevia in it that avoids me, like doesn't give me sugar cravings.
Yeah.
I mean,
why not?
Why not? I mean, like it's just, I think life is full of trade-offs, right? I mean, you just have to.
So one thing I'm really glad, one is, you've obviously been taking your health, reasonably, seriously, been active all your life, and nothing you now publicly also talk about it. I think for, any entrepreneur listening to this podcast, I think they're recognizing somewhere, health is also a huge enabler. You talk about better decision making throughout the day. This, that, 45-minute or 1 hour investment, in my opinion, absolute must, especially, people who want to do this for long term, and we'll talk maybe later, then nothing really happens, without long-term mindset. So this is an absolute no-brainer investment. I think that everybody, definitely all entrepreneurs should consider it.
It's just not entrepreneurs. I think every single human being. I mean, there is no excuse in today's world not to give like an hour a day for yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I mean, you have to take care of yourself. I think medical progress means that we'll all live for much longer.
Yeah.
Right. As in, now, what is the quality of life you want to have if you're leading much longer?
Right.
And I think your health choices, life choices today will really determine that, right, in the future. And I think you need to think about, like I said, it's all about long-term mindset.
Right.
If your health goals are more vanity goals, like I've had those health goals, right, in periods of time where I'm like, oh, I need to look ripped, I need to look. My choices are very different, and they're not even healthy, to be very honest.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
I carry a lot of injuries. All of them are for those stupid, vanity goals. You keep pushing yourself. And who cares, if you have half an inch extra bicep? I know you care a lot about your bicep.
No, I mean, I want to be strong.
Right.
Like that's I care about that. Like this. I don't know if it's even if I should be even caring about it. But somehow, like one of the things I've been wanting to do is to be strong, because the kind of sports I play, it requires me to be strong to be able to, if I want to be playing basketball at 60 years, I need to be a certain strength size, so, and you can't be strong without muscles, in the sense that it's really hard to be strong. And I think Indian genes, generally, you find it hard to put on muscle.
Right.
If I diet too much, I'll become like a stick in no time. If I do more cardio, I'll become like a stick. Like, I have seen some of my friends in the US, like Americans. I mean, they'll have bulging bicep by jogging, right? I think it's just genetically they're very, I mean, they're very different. So
I don't know if genes are determined for you or not, but looking at your muscles, I think either you put in a lot of hard work or they are not.
I put a, I think over the last 1-2 years, I've been putting.
Right.
I've also, like, one of the things I'm trying to do now is to have some kind of event to prepare to. Next month I'm doing this High Rocks event, and then there's a Goa Ironman, so where I'm doing like a swimming bit. December I plan to do another. So the thing is, I'm having these. Like, if you have an event goal, right, then you have like a, like you get up and say, what, I'm training for this, right? So High Rocks event requires you to have someone. So it's essentially you do 1 kilometer run, and then you have a station. A station is like a rowing of 1,000 meters, a ski erg of 1,000 meters, wall ball 100 counts of the
in a gym or something.
Oh, it's become really popular.
Where is it?
This one I'm doing is in Dubai.
Okay.
But it's happening across Europe, US, Southeast Asia, and like in Europe, you actually get into a waiting list to be able to enroll to the event.
And so how many such?
It's 8 kilometers of run, so 1 kilometers. And then in between that, you have these intense workouts. Like, this burpee broad jumps for like, I think 100 meters. Right. You're doing burpee broad jump for 100 meters.
Burpee broad jump is, so you do one burpee jump and jump forward.
Yeah.
And you again
do burpee. Down. And then you have to do it for 100 meters.
You've done it for 100 meters?
Yeah, I've been training, but I haven't done all the 8 kilometers plus all the, Like for example, you need to do farmer's carry for 25 kilo each.
Got it.
For 200 meters.
And you compute for time.
Yeah, and it's for yourself. I mean, in the sense you're setting,
just finishing itself is the
so yeah. I mean, you set a goal and then you say, what, can I maintain these levels, etc. Right? So it kind of, I mean,
there's no hierarchy maintained in India.
It's not, but I'm kind of plugging in all the startups that we're investing in.
I am going to copy from you. I'm going to talk to Cult team today itself.
There is,
we'll make sure we'll give credit where it is due.
No, but there is, we've invested in a company called Devil Secure.
Okay, right.
So he's been doing obstacle courses, but it's not a hierarchy format. But I mean, he's trying to build a property. But I think Cult also should. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I don't know why.
More such event we have, the better, right? It brings the whole community feeling and the atmosphere and so.
No, even like for example, right, the Bangalore, the marathon that we have,
right,
or the Bombay marathon. Yeah. There's so many people, who sign up, and as soon as they sign up, they're working towards it. Like even in our office, all the people who were working towards the Bangalore marathon.
Yeah.
For 2-3 months, they were getting up and they had like a health, like a routine.
Right.
I think if there are like those 3-4 events which are really popular, you can influence lifestyle choices of so many people who are going to participate in that.
Right.
And definitely India needs a lot more of that.
So with your investment arm, Rainmatter Health, you guys have made bunch of bets in the health space, right? This was, when did you guys make that choice that you want to kind of in some ways encourage and help build that ecosystem? Because health is still not very big. Last 6-7 years I've seen. In some ways, if you really zoom out, it's a very niche category, especially healthy lifestyle. Maybe on the care side, after you're sick, probably one can build a large business. So what convinced you guys, and how are you able to kind of nurture all these different bets?
So the thing is, Rainmatter as an idea started in 2016. So 2016, like I was telling earlier, is also when we kind of arrived in lifetimes. In a sense, we made some money and we became popular. People started knowing what Zerodha is. Around that time is also when we launched this thing called as Kite Connect APIs, which allowed for startups to come build apps on top of us. Think of Android and Play Store, right? Doesn't like that. And because our idea was that we can't solve for all problems, we rather partner and collaborate. Which is again a very different kind of a thinking. I don't think we could have taken that stance if you're a VC funded company, right? Because in a VC funded company, you're forced to do everything yourselves. And so here we could say, whatever is my moonshot, I'll rather partner, collaborate. I'd rather be 25% of something versus being 0% on nothing, right? And so when these startups came to us, we also realized there was an opportunity. Not an opportunity, these people also needed money. Because 2016 is when fintech wasn't hot, right? I mean, especially around trading and markets, etc. So we started investing. We called the initiative Rainmatter. So that's how the fintech piece started. 2019-20 was really when we started, I think personally, making stupid amounts of money. In the sense, where you're like, what's happening, right? Why is business just generating so much cash? And
good model to have.
But I think one of the things that keeps the core team together is that we've always questioned the obligation success running salon. Right? Saying that in an unequal world like where we live in today, I think people who get successful, they need to use their success in some way to help the society in some form. And that's how Rainmatter Health also started, and that's how Rainmatter Climate and Foundation started in 2020. Because now we thought we were stupidly successful financially, and we need to use this in some way. And so we set up a foundation. We allocated it like 1,000 crores, and we said we're going to help social sector in India. Because social sector can also solve for a lot of problems, right? Because governments are, have its own complexity, right? Because, like think of a for-profit startup in the public, in the capital markets or in the for-profit sector, and you can come do small little things, disrupt, create impact, then scale it. But who will do it in the social sector, right? I think we need social orgs which are able to do it. So, and someone has to be there who's giving the kind of support we give for profit there. So we said we'll do it through the foundation, and climate change is something we all internally closely associate with. So that started, and health is also like I said, in 2020 is also when I started caring about health quite a bit, and a lot of I thought there wasn't enough companies in India helping Indians to make better, healthier choices, easier. I mean, of course, Cult has been doing this for a while, but I thought there has to be a lot more of this. And if I'm in the airport, why can't I find one healthy thing to eat? Right? Like those were the kind of questions. And we said we need to support. And for us, Rainmatter has always been that. It's always been right from fintech. It's always been more impact than being like a fund or investment arm. As in, not till date once have we exited any investment.
Right.
Or we have ever sat with them and asked a founder saying, "Oh, tell me how much you've grown." Right? Our question has always been, are you helping people do better with money? Are you helping people do better in terms of their health choices? Are you, with climate, etc.? Are you helping, the planet in some way, right? So, and the funny thing, or it's not funny, I mean, it's probably the counterintuitive thing, is that if you can do all of that well, money will automatically follow. And that realization was always anyways with the business as well, right? As Zerodha, we've never gotten up any day and said we want to grow at this rate, right? Or we want to make this much money. I mean, the idea has been your job is to do a certain thing and you do it well. Whatever you have to make in life, you will make it. Right. But, otherwise, what happens is if you optimize for money,
right,
your life choices are very different than, if you optimize saying, I need to get up and help a customer do better. And
this is super inspiring, Nithin. I think you guys are using your success really well, and I'm glad to know, like, your kind of capital you're allocating and picking up topics, where probably they're not VC fundable as much because that TAM isn't there or clear path to profitability or scale, etc. But I think it's great to see.
Yeah, no, I think today there is, like with health or with a lot of these climate startups, I don't think it's TAM. But I also think that, if you were to ask me 10 years out, what will be some of the things that I think will do well is, I think, like if you think about COVID, right? As in when we were pushed to the edge, humankind made certain choices. Right. I think in climate, we are already at the edge. The realization is still not there.
Right.
So a lot of these startups who are in the climate space, I think will come to the forefront in the next 5-10 years. Now, I would probably even go bet that the first trillionaire of this planet will be a guy who is solving for climate issues. Right? I mean, potentially it could be Elon Musk itself. But what I'm saying, it's a no-brainer. It's just that, what is your time horizon?
Yeah.
You can't think about it. It can take 10 years, it can take 20 years, it can 30. But eventually, I think, some of these, even health, for example, if you're going to live longer, if the life expectancy in the country keeps going up, people eventually at some point of time will say, you know what, my health is as important. So maybe I should make lifestyle changes to think about it. Right. So I think these are, really, really long-term bets.
And with the surplus you guys are generating and just, not really accountable to anyone, you are able to think really long term, and even if it takes 20 years for these bets to play out,
it doesn't matter. Right? Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, I think if you were to ask, one of the things we've done right in this journey of Zerodha has also been that, is that every decision has been about long term.
Yeah.
Like usually the problem with most entrepreneurs is you're always incentivized meeting the short term targets. Yeah. Like what will you do next 3 months? What will you do next 6 months? Then all your life choices as an entrepreneur is to do what is right for the next 3 months, 6 months, and what is right for the next 6 years is almost never right for what is right for the next 6 months, right? So it's, I think, I mean, just to be, and I think we need more investors who encourage this kind of thinking.
Traditional VC model is not set up for that, but they are just 10 years life cycle funds. So the whole cycle needs to happen. But for me also, I honestly never really realized the power of long term. It's only last few years I finally changing my mental model, think in 10-year increment, like basic unit of time is 10 years. Because whatever you think, anything meaningful, large scale impact takes multiple decades. Correct. I'm sure it's probably true for Zerodha. In fact, it is true based on what you've told me. Like for most companies, like 2 decades, 90% of wealth creation happens second decade. Right. Probably applies to third decade also, and so on. I think somewhere else, Abhishek was telling me that for Warren Buffett, his 90% of his wealth creation happened after the age of 65. Correct, yeah, well, he was really good till that time as well. Right. But the compounding of that, starts showing up, much later years.
No, absolutely. There is no quick way to make money. Now, a lot of people get sucked into believing that there is some magical way of making money quickly. Right. And a lot of reason why people come to the stock market is also for that.
Right.
It gives you an illusion that there is easy money to be made. Yeah. Now, I've said this before, multiple times, that I think trying to trade from the markets and make money is probably the toughest way to make easy money in life.
Right.
As in, it's easier probably buying lottery tickets, because the thing is, if you buy a lottery ticket and you have a good outcome, you'll keep the money. You'll not go buy lottery tickets with that. Yeah. But if in the stock market you come and make money the wrong way, you will lose it all eventually because you're gonna use that money and trade more. And if you've traded and made it in the wrong way, it's not gonna stick around anyways.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, so it's really hard. As in, I think one of the problems for stock markets is that people have had this wrong expectation that they can somehow make money quickly. And while it is good for stock broking, our business in the short term, it is something which is not good for the long run, right? Because if people come and go very quickly, how will the markets expand over the next 5-10 years?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'd rather have a customer come to us, give us 100 rupees a month for the next 10 years, versus give 1,000 rupees in 1 month and disappear. Right. And this choice, as I said, is again, I know most of my peers are trying to find ways to make 1,000 rupees in 1 month, right? And their choices of what they do as a business, kind of nudges for that short-term thinking.
So what's enabling you to think long-term is the fact that you guys never raise any VC money. Right. Look at India, generally startup ecosystem is thriving, but one part of just the mainstream model is I have an idea, I have a PowerPoint, and let me first raise money and then think about a product and product market fit. Do you think it's, at that time probably, because you had very different background and your own capital also, at that time even the capital you had was quite meaningful. How can one think about today of bootstrapping, from not raising money exercise? Is it even practical for most people?
It's impossible. Like so many people ask me, is it possible to build Zerodha today without raising capital? It's impossible. Even then, I begged, borrowed money and etc. That money wasn't there, in the sense, it didn't come across like traditional VC money and all, but it just went out and borrowed money and begged and etc. So it is, but I think, like even today, we've invested in like almost 80, 90 startups. Usually when we sit on the, conversation, I think the problem is entrepreneurs think they need to oversell because that is what is incentivized in the industry. And I think that's a problem. Yeah. I think if you set the right kind of expectation to the investor, like if I am coming to your business as an investor saying that this is a 10, 15-year play, then I'll come with that expectation. Yeah. But if the founder comes and tells me in 3 years, I'll go from, I don't know, I've seen pitch deck, in our industry, which, like, it's so funny, like one of the startups, quite a big startup saying, India will have 50 crore Indians investing in the stock markets by 2027. And I'm like, what are these guys smoking? Like, how is it possible?
How many Indians today who are active, brokering accounts?
People who have traded once a year, I think around 2 crore Indians.
2 crores out of 1.4 billion, 100.
I think, India, looking at India as 1.4 billion is the wrong way to look at India.
3 Indias or something.
Yeah, I think India, which has the money to invest in the markets, is not more than 10 to 15 crores.
Right. So, but even out of that, only 2 crores have invested once
a year. But I think 10 crore Indians have invested, have opened accounts.
Right.
But even if you are in mutual funds, stocks, etc., I think it's 3-4 crore.
And how fast is the number growing?
It's a factor of the underlying markets. If it's a bull market, it grows fast. If the market,
if you average out at over 5 years,
in the last 2-3 years, it's grown phenomenally. Right. Like a business like us, we've gone from 1 million customers to 1.2 million customers 12 million customers in like 3 or 4 years. Right. So it's grown phenomenally. But within the last 3 years, the last year when the market plateaued, it just everything dropped off. Right. And a new account, because people's interest to invest in the market is completely depending on the underlying, like momentum in the market. Right. So if it's a bull market, more people come. If bear market, everyone drops off. Yeah.
But if you hazard a guess, if let's say there are 3 or 4 million people, between mutual fund and stock market, where is the number going? Let's say over the next decade, is it going to double, triple?
Right. No, I think. The thing is, I think over the next decade, if you were to say 10 to 15 crore Indians after 10 years from now, will be in some way investing in the markets. That's not an oversell, I think. Yeah. But if you say in next 3 years will be 50 crores, it's an overselling. Yeah. There is no. The thing is, the problem with that overselling is, if you get an investor who's expecting this, then all your decisions that you do as a business, is to meet that expectation, right?
And if you're lucky with the fundraising, etc., you may end up subsidizing. We have seen there are many categories, around that, but the whole, the TAM is big, but it is subsidized revenue.
Correct. Right.
You take the subsidy away, and the size of market comes down by half.
Correct. Yeah. So I think what investors in the ecosystem need to do is to tell set the expectation right in the entrepreneur. We need to move entrepreneurs from overselling every time,
Right.
to maybe sell correctly, because then all their life choices after that will be much better. Versus you set a wrong goal in your life, there's very, if I get up tomorrow and I say I want to run 100 meters in 10 seconds, it's never going to happen. I might get disappointed, I might do whatever, right? I might take substances, I might do all the wrong choices to get there.
Right.
So I think the onus is also on the investors.
Right.
And one of the roles that we think we can play as Rainmatter is also that. Usually every conversation we go in, and someone is overselling, I laugh and say, what the hell are you talking to? It's okay. We are not here trying, you to be, saying that, you're going to go to moon in 2 years. It's okay. If it's going to take you 10 years, 15 years to go there. So yeah, I personally think what you said, I think India, especially with a lower TAM, harder to make money, the traditional VC fund cycle of this 10 years doesn't work. I think, it should be at least 15 years.
And probably we should see then maybe a more active role from family offices. I've seen, Indian conglomerates are very good at taking long-term bets, right? And many of them keeps reinventing themselves because they again have a balance sheet capital and they can take, as whatever longer time frame works.
Absolutely. I think one of the reasons I keep going evangelizing everywhere, and the reason I do it more today is because we are walking the walk, in a sense, walking the talk, which is, most of our upside financially, we have said that we're going to give forward to entrepreneurs and, to the social sector, etc. And we're doing it, we're deploying it and not saying it because we want to nudge other Indian entrepreneurs, people who have more context of India, to be able to do this more, right? And also, like I was saying, the Empire podcast, it's just ridiculous that 90% of all the money that's invested in this country comes from foreign, in the sense, not Indian money. That means all the upside is getting created outside the country. In a way, it's another form of the British Empire, right? As in, if the next generation,
that would have been true if all this money was actually generating a lot of profits. But even look at it, all these companies put together have brought in, actually a couple of $100 billion of capital to India, but really not actually. So not ecosystem creation is, in some ways a reverse of,
until now. But I'm saying, if you were to assume that a lot of these businesses will become really large over the next 5-10 years. See, the thing is, a lot of these, even if you look at the US, for example, the big tech really is majority of the wealth created, right? And so I'm assuming at some point of time, even in the startup ecosystem in this country, that the top 1-2 of every sector is going to create a lot of wealth.
That's right.
Right? And that will essentially still be created outside.
Right.
And I think the big challenge for India is that, we're not growing inclusively, right?
Yeah.
It's just, we're growing, but it's in a smaller pocket.
Yeah.
Right? We want the entire country to be growing, and that can happen, I think, only if the wealth creation is retained in this country.
Yeah.
And if you were to ask me, Nithin, why do I get up every day doing what I do? It's essentially that.
Yeah.
Because I think by getting people to invest in stocks, we are introducing them to the concepts of risk to reward and backy entrepreneurs, right? And eventually, I think people who come invest in stocks are more likely to support entrepreneurs than people who never invested in stock markets, right? And hopefully, one of these years, we'll be able to extend our platform into also enabling people to back entrepreneurs in this country, right? And like private companies, not everyone can do it, but maybe there should be like accredited investors who can, who can kind of add value to the startup ecosystem, right? As in, and create the wealth and retain it here. So, longer run, hopefully one of these days regulations are, that enable us to do something like this.
See, overall, the pool of domestic capital is growing very rapidly. In fact, even private, investments, now we are seeing, family office starting to allocate some portion of, their portfolio, which is probably a good sign.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think a lot of foreign investors also probably realizing the return expectation, the return horizon in India needs to be a lot different than, probably what people believed in last. And maybe a regulatory also, maybe government to think more deeply about, what are the right policy, how to steer. The ecosystem is fairly big. I wouldn't say it's mature yet, but there's probably some room for the government to also.
I think, there are good things happening. There's no, keeps me bullish about India, and I have 100% skin in the game.
Right.
Like every single thing that we do as a business is long India. Right. So there's this, reason why we haven't taken some liquidity and, secondary. Even all the upside from the business is going back to entrepreneurs. So it's I'm completely bullish on India, and every time someone asks me about, like a lot of the young kids today come and ask me life advice, and I say, dude, I don't know if I'm qualified, but I usually say I think it's a good idea to be sticking around in India, right? And building businesses. I think over the next 5, 10, 20 years, it seems like, we can have a good...
See, to these days, the hype around India is probably stratospheric. I mean, this, even despite, last 2 years, generally global, things are a little sober, but the India is kind of standing out. People are talking about everything, next 2, 3, 4 decades, rising superpower and everything. From your vantage point, how do you look at, what makes you feel very bullish about India and what also concerns you?
No, I mean, the concern is obvious, which is, we're not growing inclusively. And whatever we're doing through the foundation, is where we, through the social sector, is where we can actually think about the real problems, and not the problem of, I ordered on, I don't know, one of these apps and it didn't come to me in 7 minutes, it just came 9. I mean, that's not a real problem. I mean, the real problem is, like majority of Indians, we need to create enough employment. We need to create, we need to put more money in the hands of Indians, right? And not just in the top 4, 5, 10%, in the hands of almost, all the Indians. And this whole, I still don't get it why just like the women participation in the workforce is so little.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the reasons I read about Indian history so much now over the last 1.5 years is to maybe get a better context of why it has like that. I don't know why is it that we're like 23% right now.
Yeah, one of the lowest in the world, including neighboring countries. Just especially even lower among the educated women.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if you know this, as in Tamil Nadu, 50% of all women that work in industries are in Tamil Nadu. It's just one state, and if you add all women who work in this country, 75% come from the 4 South Indian states. So I think it's a more cultural thing as well, and it's impossible, to grow as a country if half the country isn't contributing to the country in some form, right? And like stuff like that. I mean, I think about that, and we're like, what should we be doing? I mean, because these conversations have to be more mainstream and something to be done. Now, what is the like on the other side? What am I most excited about? I think it's the same narrative, everyone, right? Demographics, probably the only stable government, anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
I think this whole China plus one, I think a lot of opportunities will come to India.
And domestic consumption also, right? Over like 1.4 billion people that are all aspirational, they want good things in life. Of course, income distribution is a big impediment to that, but there's still going to be a lot of organic demand.
So yes, I think some of these things will get better over time. I mean, we need to remain hopeful.
Yeah. And this, inclusive growth, what can entrepreneurs do? Like every time, I look at an opportunity, ultimately, the reality of, what you also alluded to, most of income is concentrated among top 10 million household or, top 50 million, 5 crores, Indians, so on. As an entrepreneur, when people are looking for their first win, they need to sell something to somebody.
Right.
And chances are, anything with reasonable margin can be sold to people who have reasonable income.
Right.
And then big catch-22, how do you have a sachet-sized product or services, which are relevant for larger spectrum of society? Seems like a very difficult problem to...
It is. I mean, I've thought about it quite hard.
Yeah.
I don't know what is the answer. Like even as Zerodha, right? As in when we think about like who should be saving and investing in the market, we're like, how do I think about a product for someone who's finding it hard to put food on the table, right? I mean, you can't go say that, like save for 20 years from now, if they're finding it hard to educate the kids, finding it hard to put food on the table, it doesn't work. I mean, how do you tell that person don't borrow money?
Right.
If he needs money to put his kid in school, right? It's it's very easy to say it, but it's a really tough problem to solve. I mean, I think as an entrepreneur, I think like the way I think about it is businesses that over a period of time use while you want to grow, etc. But if you can also use business to help for some societal problems, not like charity. I'm not talking about just taking some money in, right? I'm saying whatever you're building, if you can also build while helping people grow, in some form. I think
part of it, what when some hope, I think is we should also see a lot of entrepreneurship also happen in smaller towns, because people who are there, they have a much better context of what the needs are. It's very difficult to also envision sitting in Bangalore or Gurgaon and try to, solve for tier 4 towns in the country.
I think India needs a lot of micro entrepreneurs.
Right, exactly.
I mean, this is like through the foundation, this is our like one of the biggest chases of ours.
Yeah.
I think Samir, who has the foundation, talks about. I mean, there's a very like Gandhiji also spoke about it, but like India is like a cluster of 50-60,000 villages.
Right.
I mean, in the sense, each cluster is like a business unit. You want it to be profitable in some way.
Yeah.
Today it isn't.
Right. So a lot of local production, local consumption, and generating some surplus.
Absolutely. It'll also solve for your climate issues significantly.
Yeah.
It'll also create entrepreneurs in the process.
Yeah.
There'll be more wealth distribution.
Right.
Right. I think that's really the way. Like even at Zerodha, for example, we are mostly work from home across the team, as in except for the tech and some of the core people. So 1,000 families, we actively nudge them to go away from Bangalore, right, to smaller towns and cities, saying that you will have a better bang for your buck, and also you will probably contribute to the local economy in some way, right? So today, if there are 1,000 less families in Bangalore, we've played some part, right? So I know these people have gone to Belgaum, Mysore. Right. Like a lot of our team folks now have nannies. I mean, like, there's people, if you're making ₹1 lakh in Belgaum, you can live a king's life. Of course, yeah. So it's like, I mean, I think businesses, wherever opportunities are available, I think you should make those kind of choices, because you will in turn, in the longer run, help grow your TAM.
Maybe I'll translate that prompt into, almost a call for action. If someone can figure out, small micro cluster and make it profitable, as you said, then come and, pitch to Nithin and he will consider.
No, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we are, that's, so within climate change, I think one of the, what we're supporting through foundation, I find myself being a hypocrite when I talk about climate change directly, right? Because one of the big reasons for this is this whole overconsumption, right? The issues that we are facing as a planet, and I know I can be more in moderation, and so I don't really talk, but the creating entrepreneurs is something I'm super passionate about, and which is what within the foundation, there are 2-3 ways we are attempting. So if there's any entrepreneur who's trying to kind of help a local cluster, we get super excited about that. I personally get very excited about it.
Let's hope we get some ideas coming in, in your inbox or mine. I want to go back to just the world of investing, because there is so much action happening. I said, like, you were flying under the radar till 2016, but 2016 to 2020, fintech started to get more attention. People want to have more credit. A lot of people wanted to start participating in the market for double-digit returns, so on. And pandemic massively accelerated. Now let's maybe talk about different spectrum of people. Let's start with people who are just thinking about investing. Let's say, somebody who has, 20-30 lakhs rupees of annual income, has some surplus, and starting to open an account, at Zerodha and start investing. What's the best place, which is just consider index fund initially, a debt, mutual? Like, what's a easy, safe way without, learning too much?
I mean, I think like the first thing I think everyone should have is an insurance policy.
Right.
Like, like people, we all overestimate ourselves in lives, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I could get out from here and I could crash into something and I could not be there. I think your family needs to be covered. So I think the first part of financial, and think about finances, is to cover for your worst case outcomes.
And just plain term life, or those financial products which have term life and some
No, it's just term. I mean, I think if you have dependents, and these dependents are expected, they're living off a certain earning of yours, I think they need to be covered first. Right. I mean, it's I think like when you think about money, right, what I've realized after making a lot of mistakes is the idea is to put yourself in situations where you can be rational when issues happen, right?
Yeah.
And you can remain rational only when the risks are covered as much as possible. So one is term, which is, I think the right way to look at it is, if something were to happen to you, if that money was at a bank fixed deposit, can it generate enough return to cover for your family or whoever is your dependent?
So about 10 times of,
Correct,
cover of your current annual income.
Something like that. And it's not very expensive to do it. It's I think a lot of people shy away from doing it because it feels like, it'll not generate them return.
Yeah.
But the thing is, just knowing that the risk is covered gives you better mind space to take more rational decisions with the rest of the things, right? Similarly with health, right? It's almost, I think, today one health incident puts majority of the people below poverty lines, right? In the sense, you can be in debt forever, etc. So it's a no-brainer not to have a health insurance policy, right? So I think anyone who's talking anything about money, finances before investing is to cover the risk. These two has to be covered.
Got it.
Right. And it doesn't matter who you are. I mean, unless people like you and me, as in if you had like large enough outcomes and money is sitting in the bank. So even if you're not around, right? I mean, if not for that, I think everyone else need to be doing this. Third is, when you say, I have X amount of money now, I need to be optimizing for returns. If you keep money in a bank account, you are unlikely to create wealth out of it. Right. And I think the simplest thing to do is an index fund, right? As in, but every time I say it, people are like, would you do it with index fund? I wouldn't, right? Because I have like 15, 20 years of experience doing this. But I think the right starting point is an index fund, right? Because, once you get in, you'll start tracking the markets, you'll learn more. Maybe then you can go from, the safest option, which is an index option, to maybe a sectoral fund, and etc. But I think the good starting point is to be as safe as possible.
And guidelines or percentages debt versus,
I mean, that the 100%, 100 minus age rule, right? I mean, that's simple, like...
What do you explain? A lot of it might not have heard of it. What?
No, I mean, yeah, if you're 30 years of age, 100 minus 30, so 70% put it in equity, and 30% have it in debt in some form.
Right.
Some long-term debt, some short-term debt. So, so when I say long-term, short-term, like a long-term could be like a 10-year GSEC.
Right.
A short-term could be a bank FD, right? I think everyone should also have some liquid capital.
Right.
So a bank FD can also potentially act as something that you can tap into.
Right.
If there was a job loss, there was, like one of those issues. I think everyone should have at least like a year's worth of that short-term debt, which is, like money in the bank account, which can cover for your 1 year running cost.
Right.
Like I said, no one knows, economy and what can happen. So I think this is like a good starting point. But I think, as you learn, as you spend more time, you can start doing fancier things. So if someone wants to decide to do short-term trading in the markets, you can probably, say, what, I'll allocate 5% of my portfolio for short-term trading. I'll do short-term trading with it. And I won't allocate more unless I make money, right? Because the problem is that short-term trading is it gives you a lot of dopamine hits.
Right, yeah.
Right? It is, when you're right, it keeps this, the thing is most of our lives we're doing boring stuff, right? And especially people who are employed in jobs, etc. And trading brings excitement. The thing is, you should accept the fact that, this is, it's exciting you, that's why you're doing it. And for most people, it's that, right? And like, we were just talking before, right? As in like, I'm on social media. Of course, the excuse is that it helps the business.
Yeah.
But I also understand it gives me dopamine, right? Because when I say people like, people share, there is excitement getting created, right? I keep questioning myself, like, how much percentage am I on social media for excitement?
Right.
How much am I in it for, real business reasons? Right? So, I think people have to be self-aware and question these things.
Right.
So the thing about money is you can very easily get carried away. One stupidity is all it will take. Right? If one of these days you've lost some money trading and you say, let me take my 30% of whatever this debt and put it into it and try to recover. I mean, I think those are the kind of mistakes.
So having some of these very strong guardrails, which you not breach no matter what happens, can protect you against some of this too.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing is, the big challenge in an online world where you can almost instantly make mistakes. Like, these guardrails also are very...
Who is going to hold you accountable?
Absolutely. Like, for example, when I was younger, when there was no Swiggy, Zomato, etc. In the middle of the night, if I felt like binging, there was nothing to binge on.
Right, yeah, correct.
Right? Today, you take an app and call ice cream and it'll be there, So it's not that. So even even if, say, at Zerodha, you have this long-term portfolio that you have thought that you'll not access ever.
Right.
And suddenly, you're losing money in trading.
Right.
How do you safeguard this, right? As in, it's really hard, I think it's very easy for us to say,
right,
don't become irrational into stupidity, but it's become really hard in today's world to avoid like just all these making life easier for people.
Right.
In the process, also made it easier to make mistakes. So
just going on day trading for a second, especially given I have such a bad history with this, is I think so. What you are saying is for most people who initially almost treat day trading more as a hobby rather than a vehicle for making money, and just put literally your play money. If you lose, but you learn something, you get your daily, dopamine hits or deep introspection, opportunities. And only when you have some kind of track record, maybe consider taking that 5 to maybe 10%.
Absolutely. I think if people, it'll sound weird coming from me, but if people thought of day trading as entertainment, like how much would you spend on a weekend?
Right.
Going to a movie, hanging around with friends, or, all of that, right? If you thought of it like that, and you say that I'm learning also while I'm getting entertained,
right?
You'll not go spend, if you're going out weekend partying, you'll not take 100% of your money. And right, I'm saying it's a good framework to begin your, think of day trading, right? And over time, as you figure if you're good at it or bad at it, you can then, think of it differently, right? But a good way to start thinking, because if the big problem, I think, with people is that everyone enters thinking they can make money from day one. It's impossible. Like, this is capital markets. On the other side of your trade is, someone who's, was maybe, sitting with unlimited money and, unlimited experience.
Most people I talk to, especially younger people, they think, 10% return is for, old people. I think, there is enough, you just, study numbers, look at some charts and figure out, some macro point of view, and you can easily, gun for significant double digit.
Yeah,
I think possible unless you're a professional.
Yeah, and I think this is like, when I think about influencers and social media, I think this setting wrong expectation is something that's gone wrong the last 3-4 years. There's one thing I can go back and set right as a person. And this is one of the reasons why I'm also, very actively as a business, personally. We keep talking about how it is hard to make money in the markets. It's not a popular thing to do as a stockbroker. But it's the right thing to do, which is, because if people came with the right expectations, I think the kind of choices they'll make will be more correct. Right. So it's really hard. I mean, even to make 10% a year from the stock market over a long period of time, it's really hard. It seems so low because most people who come think they can make 10% a month. I mean, I'm saying it's impossible. I mean, we have, in the last 20-25 years, maybe less than 0.5% would have made more than 10%. Right. Trading very actively in the markets. So
I think people who do 15% or more over 20 years, you are among the legendary investors in the world, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it is. So I think it is. People need to have the right expectations. But I think, like I said earlier, right, when I think about my life as a businessman, my biggest learnings in my life in terms of how I handle emotions, fear, greed, has been from trading. Right. If there's one thing I think everyone should attempt is also to trade. Right. Because you learn about finance, money, your emotions better than anything else.
Okay, so how does one start as someone who has never traded in a safe manner with the right guardrails? What let's say I want to start trading now. What should I do over the next 3 months?
Yeah. No, I think first is just deciding what is the capital you'll allocate. Right. And figuring your guardrails, as in to say that how will I ensure that I will not get carried away. Yeah. Right. If it's not going right, how do I ensure that, I don't want to be that hero, and stuff like that. So yes, so like that, so first I think allocating a capital. 2 is, see, the thing about trading is, like a lot of people come and say, Nithin, can you tell me the right strategy to trade and make money in the market? There's nothing. Yeah. Right. Knowing that there is not, I've done this for 25 years. I have no clue how to trade and make money in the markets. Right. I think I have an idea on the money mistakes that you can avoid while trading. Yeah. Right. Which will improve the odds of you doing well in the markets. And those money mistakes are very common. I think we alluded to in the conversation. One was don't go against the trend. It's very tempting to go against the trend. It's very hard to make money. So if you're someone who's starting off, I think maybe have these 4 or 5 rules. Yeah. Saying these are really the basic money mistakes I need to avoid. One is know what is the right amount of capital. Yeah. 2 is don't go against the trend. Yeah. 3 is don't leverage. Right. As in 4 is understand what is bet sizing. Yeah. Right. Which is the thing about bet size. The problem with most traders is that every trade is of the same size, right? And every trade shouldn't be of the same size, right? Majority of your trades, you should be trading with as little as possible. But every once in a while, you will come across a trade where there's more conviction. You need to trade more. Right. As in, because if you keep trading the same amount all the time, the drawdowns will be much larger. Right. You'll lose more when the trade doesn't work in your favor.
And what is source of information? How do, like, when you're trading and making these bets on a daily basis, how do
you decide what to trade?
Decide, which direction you want to bet on? Like, can you prepare yourself to get at least some input and some thought?
See, I think the easiest thing to get started is technical analysis. Right? I mean, it is a lot of hocus pocus, it feels like, right? But I think the good thing about technical analysis is most strategies are are not counter trend, are with the trend, which is like a moving average, right? As in, every time a stock goes above moving average, you buy it. Right. It goes below moving average, you sell it. Right. The bet here is that things trend in life, right? So if it's going up, you're with the trend, etc. So I think a very good starting point is that. But as someone spends more time in the markets, I think you can kind of moving away from technical analysis to start thinking more about economy, more about global news events, more about stuff like if tomorrow is an RBI policy, what could happen to the markets? I mean, those things you can build intuition, etc. over time.
And you have a lot of content to educate people on Zerodha Varsity, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, we started this in 2013 and one person has built it. Karthik is just phenomenal that, like a lot of time people ask me how big is the team. I say it's just one guy. And he's probably answered 20,000-30,000 queries on that.
So how many hours of content is there on it?
No, it's
texture.
It is text. Okay. So it's like a Quora plus a wiki format.
Got it.
Right. It's I think actually, I don't know why I didn't plug this. So maybe if someone wants to get started, I think a good point is Varsity. So because we have structured in such a way that there's a flow to it. Like it starts with someone whom we assume has no understanding of the market. Right. And as and when you progress, you introduce fundamental analysis, technical analysis, etc. And I think this whole section on trading psychology. Right. I think eventually, if you were to ask me what differentiate good traders from bad traders, it's just trading psychology. It's just the ability to understand your emotions, how you react, and to make sure you put yourself in a situation where you better, are in the guardrails, right? And I think even I keep the analogy I think about is also around health choices also. Like for example, in my house, I stay as far away from the kitchen as much as possible because I know that
lifestyle designed.
Yeah, I mean in the sense because if I, especially COVID, right? After COVID, my realization is during work from home. Yeah. If I'm sitting on the dining table, or if I'm very close to the kitchen, my choices are so different because I'll keep picking up something to munch on. But if I'm really far away, it's just a guardrail in itself, right? As in, when I used to be trading, investing, all the things that I thought was long-term investment, they were in physical form. Yeah. In the sense, I didn't have any online access to this account, right? Because I knew that if I have an online access to this account, I will maybe get triggered some randomly.
So Nithin, we were talking about, thanks for Zerodha Varsity input. I think a lot of people, I'm pretty sure a lot more new investors will come in the market. People are starting to generate some surplus that they want to participate and have a healthy return. I think 8 to 10% is probably good ambition to have. But one thing I've noticed in the Indian context, just overall financial literacy and talking about personal finance and so on, it's not that mainstream. In the US, we have those people are like Sue Orman or Jim Cramer or Motley Fool guys are household names. Right. Everyone's talking about them. It's when and how will those characters emerge in India who are talking about personal finances in some meaningful manner.
Yeah, no, I think over the last 2-3 years, there are a few influencers who I think have done a decent job, but they haven't really scaled like in the US because majority of Indians still don't care about money, right? I mean, if you look at how much money is lying in the bank accounts, for example, if someone is, if I think there's 1,60,000 crores or some amount like that lying in SB account, savings bank account, right? Which kind of that much money is lying idle. It kind of tells you that maybe not every Indian is really caring about money as much, right? Yeah. Or if you look at penetration of insurance and etc., I think a lot more has to be done. And this is something that we are thinking about quite a bit at Zerodha, saying that maybe a lot of these money lessons has to be taught before people make money. Because what happens is once you get out of your college, and you start earning, you tend to, like get carried away with the ecosystem around you. You'll either do what your parents were doing or your friends around you are doing. Also, the problem is once you start earning money, this fear, greed, etc. start affecting you. So your learning isn't going to be that great. So I think the right way to solve for this is to teach people money lessons before they start making money. Very basic, fundamental lessons, right? And this is something that we keep evangelizing wherever possible, which is to say that maybe in all the schools and colleges there should be one subject, which introduces people to money and finance. Like it could be within maths, one chapter. It doesn't matter. Like I keep thinking, right, like why do I know, like say circumference of the circle is 2 pi r? Not once in my life have I used it. Right? As in, so like people should actually know something that's useful, right? I mean,
now ChatGPT can tell us,
but money is, like just a basic principles around compounding.
Right.
Like people should know that keeping money in a savings account versus a bank FD. If 3 to 4%, what it means compounded over 5-10 years. Because people don't think about like compound interest at all.
Right.
And so I think even at Zerodha now, we have started this initiative called Varsity Junior. These small animation videos which are teaching kids. But we are also hoping in the pretext of teaching kids, the parents also learn a little. Right. So it's really that simple, like just to explain what a compound interest would mean and etc. So we're trying to attempt that, but I think the real difference here would be when finance is introduced in schools and colleges in some way.
I hope more of that happens. And say, look, despite all the inequality stuff talked about, the fact is per capita income will continue to rise. People will have some surplus income, and if people can think about money intelligently or longer term, they can make much better choices. And choices may appear small today, but will compound to very meaningful outcome. In US, even there are best-selling books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or Millionaire Next Door, and so on. But ultimately, it boils down to just basics, fundamentals that in some ways, getting into mainstream, and most people are able to think about it, how to think about savings, insurance.
No, I think like I said, I think first what you need to solve for is enough audience which is interested to learn about this. Because today, if you're going to go create content like Jim Cramer or Suzy Orman, I mean, your audience isn't there.
Right.
Like it's a very shallow audience. I think India is also a very complex problem because it has to be multilingual. If you speak in English, your audience is maybe much smaller. If you speak to Hindi, then your audience is bigger, but then your English audience may not watch you.
Right.
And so I think we need a lot more people across different languages being able to do it. So I think when I think about like why we do what we do at Zerodha, it's also because we think if there was more Indians, introducing risk to their lives, which is investing in stocks or backing entrepreneurs. I think India will also inclusively grow well because today, most Indians put their money in real estate, gold, and bank FDs. Right. It doesn't help economy in any way, right? As in the gold lying in your locker is not helping the economy, right? But imagine the same money was, even if a fraction of the gold was chasing entrepreneurs in this country, we will have a lot more micro entrepreneurs. So we need, we need to kind of sow some of these ideas. And this is also one of those long-term calling with Zerodha in the sense, this is saying that maybe we can influence in some way to make some of these things happen,
I didn't know the stats, but are you able to, at this ballpark wise, what percentage of the net worth of, the country as a whole is in equity market as opposed to these, dead assets like real estate and gold?
See, the thing is, real estate is, like if you assume everyone's net worth based on their real estate valuation, equity is going to be nothing. Like it's not going to be like, it won't be less than, I think it'll be less than 1%, right? Because everyone, like the thing is, I don't know if people realize that their notional valuation of real estate is only notional.
If everything is had to sell,
there is zero, right? As in there is no value to it. So I think real estate and gold is a problem for this country. The love for real estate and gold is why I think there's not enough money available for entrepreneurs. And it's like, like everyone's competing with each other, right? All these asset classes are competing with each other.
Right.
I think entrepreneurs, which is like stock markets, private markets, etc. I think it should be at least 10% of people's portfolios. I think it'll have a much larger outcome and also help this per capita GDP go up,
Right.
and grow inclusively and all of that. It is. It's very hard to say what percentage because a lot of
value
because how do you value real estate? Second is you don't know how much gold is there.
Yeah.
Like
you look at some of this. I was just in preparation for this, looking at something like this, so-called Buffett indicator, which is ratio of GDP to market cap. I was surprised to see India, the overall market capitalization is close to 100%, 95%.
Right.
US is also only about 140%. So it's not. I was expecting to see that India is, much less capitalized compared to,
Right.
that was, I don't know if you have.
About that. I haven't really thought about it, like deeply, but now that you're saying it, see, the thing is, I think the baseline, the GDP itself is so off, right?
All right.
So if
right, and that's probably unaccounted for GDP.
Correct. Yeah. So if you look at the official GDP, on a low base kind of effect, it'll probably seem similar, but it is no way similar.
Got it.
Like the exposure of US to the capital markets is exponentially higher than what it is.
Understood. So there's a way of accounting the full GDP and probably purchasing power parity.
Yeah, you need to apply the purchasing power parity.
That's the catch. Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. We should be long way off, and which is somewhere positive because equity market participation and overall size is going to grow. But okay, that's probably a good explanation. We'll look into this more. Listen, I want to ask you, you had incredible journey last 12, 13 years. Zerodha is outstanding. Trailblazer in many ways. You're also putting that surplus to really good use, building long-term institutional foundations. What are your sources of finding energy? Because it takes a lot of energy to show up every day and be excited about new projects and think long-term. So how do you nourish yourself?
No, I mean, it's something I keep questioning. The thing is, it's a little cliche, coming from a person who has hit it in life, which is to say money, doesn't bring happiness. But I think beyond a point, it doesn't. I mean, I think especially I think when your lifestyle isn't going up with your money, right? As in a sense, my lifestyle hasn't changed in the last 5-6 years, even though my whatever net worth must have gone up significantly. So it's so then you get up, especially the days you get up are the days when there are issues, right? Like some issues happen in the business. People are, I'm getting people sending emails saying, dude, cheat, con, fraud, Nithin. I'm like, dude, why am I even doing this, right? As in, normally it doesn't happen, right? The majority of the days I'm still excited about what we're building at Zerodha. Every single thing that you're doing through Rain Matter, so those are the things that keep me motivated to get up every day. But yeah, every once in a while, on those tough days, you question, what's the point of all of this? But I guess that's really how life is. You need to find a way to get through those tough days. And for me personally, I think just everything that we're doing through Rain Matter is what keeps me excited about. And also, as I said, what Zerodha has to be, the vision itself has changed, evolved over time.
Sure.
If I still had the same goal of day one, which is I want to make active traders low cost and transparent service, I don't think I would be motivated. Right. But today, because the goal of the business is to say, how do we help Indians do better with money? How do we help Indians find ways to move all of this money that's stuck in real estate and gold towards entrepreneurs? I mean, these are more meaningful kind of goal to have, right? This helping traders do, reduce trading costs is not a very meaningful goal. I don't think if the same vision remained for the business, I would have, I would have found it really hard to get up every day, and go work at it. So now I think over time, entrepreneurs also, I think the vision, goal, etc. need to keep evolving, right? Otherwise, it's like you said, it's really hard to get up every day and say, what, I'm gonna slug it out.
And do you see in future, and I'm really longer term future, Rain Matter being a critical part of things you want to do, especially on impact side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, today Rain Matter is 15-20% of my time, but that 15-20% of my time adds a lot more meaning to the remaining 70-80% of time. Because I keep thinking about this. There's a discussion we were just having in the office, saying that, Nithin, if you were allocating 80% of your time to Zerodha, what if a competitor of ours is allocating 100%, right? Are we then at a disadvantage because you're allocating 80%?
Right.
And I was telling, if there was now this 20%, I don't think my 80% would be 80%. My 100% would be maybe 40%, 50%, right? Because I would probably get up every day questioning the meaning of life and why am I doing what am I doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's like I said earlier, life's full of contradictions. So you just have to find ways to make peace with it, and they're all trade-offs, right? I mean, you have to find what works for you. And for me, I think right now, this is how I look at it, and I get up every day. Still very excited about what we're doing.
Yeah, just what is your method of learning? I mean, it seems like you continue to be very curious, and you've talked about a bunch of different podcasts, etc. So is that a kind of active process that you engage in, that you're investing deliberate time and effort to learn about things?
See, I think one of the things I missed out in life was, I learned about trading and markets, how to trade, this technical analysis, all of that. I spent a lot of my time, but I didn't, it might come strange. I don't think I read books outside of stock market specific until 2015-16. Right? Because life was so busy. I was doing multiple things at the same time. There was no time. Because I started, like I said, when I first started trading the markets, I was also working by the side. There was no time to really be able to sit down and read books. All this English skills improving, talking skills, sales skills, it was accidental. It was a reason because of the job I was doing.
Right.
This was more what you learned at work.
Yeah.
Even the trading the market was mostly what I learned at work. And I think one of the things I did all right during those years was I had I always had a bunch of hobbies. So I used to learn something around my hobbies.
Okay.
Playing a new sport, musical instrument, and etc. I think 2015-16 is when I first got introduced to audiobooks, right? And I keep joking with my mom, saying that if when I was a kid, if they had introduced me to audiobooks versus physical books, maybe I would have done better. So in school,
want to do even better than this?
No, in school,
at some point you have to slow down.
No, because my parents went through a lot of stress because of me in school and college. No, because I really enjoy the audio format.
Right.
I find it. So once I got introduced to Audible and audiobooks, it then extended to podcasts. Today, I really enjoy. I have some of my favorite podcasts that I'm binging on. I really like this format.
What are some of the favorite podcasts or topics in general?
I love history quite a bit. So, right now, like I said earlier, Empire by William Dalrymple. Dan Carlin, is his podcast. It's just a monologue, and he speaks for hours and hours. It's just brilliant. It's mind blowing actually. On business side, I love Acquired. Just phenomenal. How much research that goes into before each of their podcasts. I think in business side, if I'm with people around me, I like Business Wars. It's entertaining. Then also like the All In podcast, which I was telling earlier, which is a bunch of tech bros, sitting and talking about how they're thinking about.
I hope people don't call us tech bros.
It's bound to happen. So it's bound to happen. So So I think these are some of the ones that I spend time on. Also, one of the hacks, I used to struggle with my sleep. So one of my personal lifestyle hacks is to kill all work by 7:30, and spend some time with my son and wife. But also, on 30-40 minutes, it kind of slows me down,
right?
Because otherwise, the problem for me is if I'm working and then try to sleep, I'm still very wired. Even I'm sleeping, I'll be dreaming about some of these, things that I need to give at least 1 or 2 hours, from. So I use that 1 or 2 hours now to listen to some of these podcasts.
Got it.
And it is coming back to that health thing. I think really sleep is the most important aspect of it, right? And people just, we all think about workout, lifting weights, and health good, eating good food, but everything comes down to sleep, right?
Absolutely. I agree with you more.
So and I've struggled because I think it's hard for an entrepreneur, right? Because you're always constantly wired.
Yeah.
There are times, where I get up in the middle of the night, on my Google Keep, I'll note something or voice record because some idea came in the middle of the night, and that still happens. But my sleep has improved quite a bit over the last 2-3 years, honestly.
You run a fairly large business, continues to grow. I think, as you said, mission is probably expanding, and then you are doing, a bunch of impact initiative, both in a for-profit manner and non-profit manner. You definitely invest, time on your health. You have pretty reasonable work-life balance. Just, as a leader, what are some of your core traits? What do you go back to? If you have to describe, who is Nithin as a leader? Like, what are the kind of foundational, those core principles on which your whole leadership model is built around?
Yeah, I mean, see, it's kind of, I think, evolved over time. As in, today, if I were to look about it, I think, I think at the end of the day, a business is really the people behind it, right? And I care about that quite a bit, right? So just, ensuring everyone on the team culturally aligns, right? And so one of the reasons I think we are very slow in hiring is that, because unless someone is culturally fit,
right,
we don't, even if it doesn't matter how talented that the person is, because if a guy is not culturally aligned, it will not work for you.
Right.
And then, it also means that if someone comes to you culturally aligned, it'll be a lot more fun building the business, right? We've had almost zero attrition, right? And that's because of that.
Right.
Like, even Kailash with our tech, like it's 35-member team, and it's just phenomenal what we've been able to pull off,
right,
with less than 35.
Even today,
Even 30. Yeah, it's just phenomenal. I mean, every single thing at Zerodha, it's open source, we self-hosted. There is no enterprise SaaS in the business. Like, even I have shifted to Linux, so in the sense, like every, I mean, if you, when people ask us, one of the reasons for our profitability is because we've been able to scale without the cost catching up.
Right.
Like, we've been a 1,100-member team in the last 4-5 years, while the business has grown 10x.
Wow.
I think if people stick around long enough, right, their skills also compound.
Right.
Yeah. The problem I think a lot of startups face today is people come and go very quickly.
Retrain again and again, and
I mean, more than that, I think the sweet spot when someone joins a company, when he really meaningfully understands and contributes to the business, is around 2 years.
Right.
Because by then he understands the overall context.
Yeah.
And he's meaningfully contributing. But, if a person leaves your company in 2 years, he's never ever in a situation to contribute.
Yeah.
Right. So some of the people who have joined us, I mean, we've not gone pedigree education.
Right.
Because this was, again, when we didn't have the money, there was no option to go hire from pedigree education. Yeah. But then the culture, within the business got built in such a way that it's today hard, if some guy with really fancy education background, we find it very hard to culturally fix it, fit
You
into
would
it.
not have hired me if I applied it. Thank God I didn't.
No. Yeah, no, but a lot of people think, I've been misquoted on this a few times around, why we don't have a single person from an IIT IIM. It is that, if someone from IIT IIM would have gotten a good job out of college, so he would be wired in a certain way.
Yeah.
And we find it very hard to culturally, just to give an example, recently I was talking to this, this person was, fancy degree and, has got a lot of experience, who came in and said, I'll come, but I'll also pull my team along with me. I was like, dude, why would I hire you?
Right.
I mean, in my head, I'm like,
yeah,
why would I want a guy like this, right? Because who's going to bring his team along? I mean, if he's coming to us for more money and he's able to take that decision, what is stopping him from doing this at Zerodha, right?
Right, exactly.
And so like it's trade-off,
right?
Which has meant that we've had to grow slowly, right? But I think when I think about it, growing slowly has also helped us do better. Just be cognizant about all the technical debts, fix it over time, etc. And those fail fast, whatever, grow fast, fail fast. I mean, I don't know if it works to build a sustainable business. I mean, you can scale up, but I think you need to grow slowly. Building a business is like growing a forest. I mean, there are so many interconnections, and I mean, you can't just plant a bunch of trees and put fertilizer, pesticide, and say I'll grow a forest quickly. It doesn't work like that. So I think just to be able to think about all of this.
Got it.
being absolutely brutally transparent and honest. As in, we run a forum called Inside.Zerodha within Zerodha. Like every single thing about our financials, about every risk, is just out there in the open. There is nothing hidden, I mean, there is, because, if I hide something in my mind, I find it really hard. Usually, so then you can be an open book. Like I can be here. I mean, if you were to ask me, Nithin, is there anything of this conversation that you want me to cut? I would say nothing, because this is really essentially what I say internally is what I say everywhere. So because it then, gives you like that, a better mind space to take rational decisions.
Right.
Otherwise, if you everything that you've hidden is a baggage in your mind.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And then when you are thinking and you have to decide, you have to think about all these baggages before deciding. Not having that baggage means you can decide very quickly.
And radical transparency is also a great antidote to politics. If everybody knows everything, there's really no one who can. This information is arbitrage to
absolutely
manipulate things.
Yeah. And these things, I think, in any business has to come top down.
Right.
And it's very easy to say we want the business to be like this.
Yeah.
But if you are not like this right from the founder onwards, it won't be like that. The company is really a reflection of how the founder acts and not what the founder says.
Right.
Right. And I think, about that. And just, like I said earlier, right? I mean, very few people, I think in the world of business, especially in the whole startup world, I think founders are over glorified. Right? I mean, because every founder is incentivized to make it feel like he doesn't have any weaknesses.
Right.
Right. Which is, which in turn, makes you actually more vulnerable.
Right.
Right. It's counterintuitive, but making it seem like you don't have any weakness,
right,
is actually stupid. So so I think as a leader, I think people need to know my weaknesses. Right. I need to know that I'm not a perfect being who can get up and keep doing every single thing which is perfect. I might have, like I said, I might have a bunch of philosophies. I keep breaking those rules. I mean, that's how humans are, and it's you make mistakes, you learn, you try to get better. So I think that actively going out there and putting your weakness out there also, I think, creates a culture where others also do that. Right. And then your business also gets better. In that way. If people are just hiding every weakness, like it's very hard for like to take the right kind of decisions. Right.
As a leader, learning to say I don't know or I'm wrong.
Yeah. Or I made mistakes.
Mistakes. Yeah.
Because the biggest problem is people, when they make mistakes in a business, don't accept the mistake.
Yeah.
I think the best thing is when you make a mistake is to say, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
I'll fix it now. Right.
Yeah.
Like, I was telling you earlier, right? As in, one of the slip-ups as a business, Zerodha has been, it's completely my fault, is not focusing on videos. Right. In my head, because all my life, I thought people they search text. They go Google and search.
Yeah.
We need to have a lot of textual content. But the world has moved on, right? As in today's generation, go to YouTube and search. They don't go to Google and search. And this decision of not having a video content strategy, is absolutely something I missed on. And it came to my, I don't know how, recently someone came to me from our team. He did a presentation and he said, Nithin, this is YouTube search and this is where Zerodha stands.
Right.
I'm like, damn. It took me 5 years, and the thing is, I knew YouTube will work because in 2016, I did a mega prank in the office, and we video recorded it, with hidden cameras.
Yeah,
it was like one of these pranks where I got these fake police officers to come and say Nithin has disappeared. They're arresting everyone, and this was. Everyone, like a bunch of guys are crying, and so it's all caught on video.
Still on YouTube.
Yeah, it's good. It's like 1.5 million views and etc. So I kind of knew this is 2016, before any of this was mainstream, right? So I knew back then that I need to do this because it's a good way to start building content on video,
right?
But then I think we slipped. So now that I accept this mistake internally, saying this is my mistake. So if I did, if I somehow ignored this, and I blamed it on someone else, that culturally it becomes that,
and that person will also try to pass it to somebody else and so on, right? And percolate.
Yeah.
So
but the problem with the philosophies at which we, how I think of a leader is not scalable.
Right.
It's very hard to scale the way we run Zerodha, and this is one of the reasons, and this is like I said, it's a trade-off in life, right? it's impossible for the new leaders to come and be like me. I can be this way because I'm, the founder, CEO. It's very hard for, like us to get up tomorrow and say, we'll build a separate payments business. We'll have its own CEO who will have to be like me.
Right.
It's really hard, So that's also one of the reasons why, Rain Matter, right? As in saying that we can't build everything ourselves. This philosophically works well if we are like a small team. If tomorrow we have to get up and there will be 10,000 people, this will not work.
Right.
So the flip side of, the way we're running and this leadership style is we can't scale. We can't build we can't become an ICICI bank or a HDFC bank. It won't happen, and we're okay with it.
Yes, and good thing is, you are first of all fully aware. Right? This seems like a very deliberate choice, and some of the things, being extremely people-centric, radical transparency, and just deliberately, playing the slow, steady, long-term game. Most people will do well in emulating that. I think, a lot of people will find it inspiring and definitely, a reasonable food for thought as they think about their own leadership style. I think I will think about seriously about some of the things, you mentioned today. But Nithin, I want to really thank you for taking the time and being so, generous with your time, and really you're very transparent, forthcoming, engaged in everything we're talking about. And I think I learned a bunch of things. I'm pretty sure a lot of people listening to this will find, a lot of really good food for thought, things to experiment, perhaps start their day trading experiments on the side if they fancy that. But really grateful. And also, I'm glad now I think a lot of people are starting to become aware how phenomenal the Zerodha story is. It's truly make in India, made in India story. Very different template of building business. Who knows, maybe people can't bootstrap completely, but people can still be highly capital efficient. Don't need to dilute as much, maybe retain majority control and so on, build for long term, right? I think so. I hope more and more people talk about Zero. So I think it's an outstanding, shining example of what happened in digital space in the country, and I am both inspired and grateful for you.
Thanks for having me here. I think, like I said, people like you, creating shows like this. I think entrepreneurship, etc., has to be more mainstream. And what you're trying to do is going to help in that. So thanks for doing this as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks.